All right, welcome to the Krueg Show after 49er football as the Vikings beat the Niners 22-17 on Monday Night Football to wrap up Week 7. Oh, man, that was tough to watch. Really tough to watch. Kirk Cousins suddenly looked like just a monster in this game. Brock Purdy struggled badly in the fourth quarter after looking incredible through the first three quarters. And the 49ers lose to the Vikings, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you if you have a comment, good, bad, or otherwise. We'll probably throw the video chat into the stream and let people have their say. Ryan Smith joins us. Dan Coach Emilio may be along. JD, possibly Damon. Kev's going to join us in a few as soon as he puts out my instant reaction video on YouTube. But Rye, what an ugly game for the 49er defense. I mean, if you had told me at the beginning of this game that the 49er defense would give up 452 yards to this Viking offense without Justin Jefferson, I would have thought, what? No way. No chance, no how. But Kirk Cousins was incredible. He converted 8 of 13 on third down. He was amazing. Every single time he dropped back to pass, he avoided a sack. He did not get sacked one time. The 49ers have put all this money into their defensive line, and where were the sacks? Where were the hits? I mean, they got 6 hits on Cousins, but 0 sacks, and just very frustrating to watch the 49ers. They could not get to Cousins at all every single time, even when they lost Hawkinson for a while. Then they lost Jordan Addison. He went back to the locker room. Guys named Brandon Powell and KJ Osborne were coming down with these catches, and they just could not stop Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, 35 of 45 for 378 yards. 35 of 45. I mean, my goodness, against this defense, he completed 78% of his passes. Didn't see that coming. I know Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, but man, that one really, really was amazing to watch. Couldn't stop Kirk Cousins at all. The Niner corners got roasted. Mooney Ward, Diamador Lenore, Isaiah Oliver, none of them looked like they were top tier in this game. Not enough rush, not enough coverage, and then Purdy in the fourth quarter with 2 bad picks. And then a weird distribution of the football, too, for the 49ers. No touches for J.P. Mason, no 1 touch for Elijah Mitchell. It's all Christian McCaffrey again. And then Brandon Ayuk, I'm expecting Brandon Ayuk to step up and play like a number 1 receiver. Maybe it's not in him. He had 5 catches for 57 yards. He was disappointing. So shocking loss. And now, they get the Bengals on a short week going back across country to fly home for the game Sunday. Bengals coming off a bye will be fully rested. Suddenly this season looks like it's getting away from the 49ers.
Yeah, all of a sudden that the Bengals game, and then they're at Jacksonville, who's just red hot. So
at least that's off a bye. At least there's a bye after that.
It's true, and I think eventually we're going to spin this positive. But I was telling Larry before we started, so I was doing a show earlier today, and I was talking to my buddy about just, are we sure the Seahawks can't catch the Niners? If you look through the Seahawks games, I mean, they beat the Lions. Really, their only stinker was week 1 versus the Rams. And that was like the Rams. That's the best the Rams are going to look all year because they're so beaten up and Stafford's been taking a huge beating. They were all completely healthy and, all that kind of stuff. Now, all of a sudden, they got the same record. And I'm a little nervous. I'm definitely a little bit nervous. And the Detroit Lions have a cakewalk for the rest of the season. I'm not too worried about the Eagles. So they've got a tough schedule. But yeah, the Niners, I've never seen their defense play like that under Shanahan. I really haven't. Like they've been in games that have been shootouts, but the defense is still making plays. And it's just weird because Mooney Ward made that play at the beginning of the game, and this Vikings team is so prone to turnovers and dumb plays and do stupid stuff. And it just felt inevitable. Like it literally felt inevitable. Every Kirk Cousins third down, I had no confidence they were going to stop. And I hate to say it, but when we got the ball back with a minute left, I didn't really have any confidence in the offense to march down the field and score. It just didn't feel like the Niners. It just didn't feel like their day.
It's the Niners are a weird team to watch right now. One, they fall into the 3 seed in the NFC. Philly at 6-1 is the 1 seed. Detroit at 5-2 has the advantage on the Niners for the 2 seed. Niners are 5-2 now. They're the 3 seed, followed by Seattle and then Dallas and then Atlanta. But if you look at the Niner record 5-2, you're saying, okay, well, it's not disastrous. Then you look at their point differential. Their plus 92 point differential, that's the best in pro football today. That's better than Buffalo, better than Kansas City, better than the Eagles, better than everybody. They get the best point differential in the game, but the last couple weeks, I mean, they just don't quite look like themselves. And I don't know what to say about the Niner defense. I mean, and Brock Purdy today, I mean, just throwing across his body. I mean, he had a couple balls that got away from him. The last interception by Bynum, I mean, it's just you're moving to your right, you're throwing across the field, you got defenders reading you. It was just an ill-advised throw. The Jennings one, it was almost like he thought Jennings was going to go a little bit further on the route, and Jennings kind of flattened it out at the end. And so that looked like a really, really bad pick. I mean, there was one other ball that could have been picked that wasn't. So, it's funny. You look at Brock Purdy going into the fourth quarter, he was 16 of 19 for 214 yards and a touchdown.
Fantastic.
He completed 84% of his passes on the road against a Viking team that blitzes you all over the place and without Deebo Samuel. And you're thinking, hey, Brock's playing well. And then suddenly those last 2 drives, the interception by Bynum on the ball to Jennings, and then the interception again by Bynum on the final play of the game, really. So, I mean, Cam Bynum had a great day. He had 9 tackles, 7 solo, the former Cal Bear, 2 interceptions, but ill-advised throws. One, I think, was acceptable. The last one was just a really fundamentally bad throw, and it was on first down. I mean, that's the other thing. The first down throw, they got picked by Bynum on the first pick, was on first down, and then both of the interceptions were on first down. So it wasn't like, hey, this is fourth down or the, last play of the game, or you got to throw it into the coverage and just kind of cross your fingers. Nothing happens. These are first down throws. So Purdy, very disappointing in the fourth quarter, and the Niner defense, I don't know what to say. I mean, what was more disappointing to you, their rush or their coverage?
I think it's got to be the rush, honestly, because the more I think about it, so if we're trying to I'm literally trying to figure out how in the hell that was possible that the defense didn't get home on Cousins. And one thing I'm thinking about, how there was that crazy stat about like the teams the week after they play the Niners, some ungodly record against the spread, like 3-15. And then straight up, it was really bad too, because you just get so beat up playing the Niners. I think the Niners might have just run into that with the Browns. I think that game was so physical that it really took it out of both teams. You saw the Browns, who've had an all-time defense, all of a sudden they're letting up 38 to the Colts. But the difference is Myles Garrett was making plays because he's that guy. He's got the glow right now, kind of like Bosa did last year. And he, even though they were giving up points, he was coming in with impact plays. He was blocking kicks, sacking the ball, forcing fumbles, all of that kind of stuff. And that just with the Niners, it's okay to have these kind of defensive games and this kind of rush, but you have to, in the biggest moments, you have to come through. You just have to, especially with how many studs they have on the team. So that's the thing that sucks for me.
To me, it's like, we welcome in Kev. I was just asking Rye, what was more unimpressive from the Niner defense? Was it their coverage or their rush? Cousins is not a mobile quarterback. He does not move all that well. And yet he dropped back to pass 45 times and they got some hits on him, but they didn't sack him one time. And it seemed like they got close a couple times, but and when you factor in how much money they're paying Hargrave and Bosa and how much emphasis they put on their defensive line, It's just been a hugely disappointing front. And then on the back end, this team did not even have their number one wide receiver. And no names like Brandon Powell and KJ Osborne were making big catch after big catch after big catch. Osborne caught 5 of the 6 balls that were thrown to him. Powell caught 4 of the 5 balls that were thrown to him. I mean, the Niners almost had no resistance at all in the secondary. Kev, what'd you think of the performance? I mean, obviously it was a bad fourth quarter for Purdy.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would not be surprised if the Vikings dominated the time of possession in that game. It felt like they always had the ball. It felt like they always were converting, and yeah, the pressure was not there at all. That last drive, they needed that sack. It looked like they almost got him, and then somehow he escaped the pressure, threw it to Osborne or who's the other Powell. It's like, who are these guys? And they're just carving up the secondary. Like, it was a super frustrating game to watch, and I don't really know where I'd have to go back and watch it again to answer your question. But I mean, both sides. Both the defensive line and the secondary were disappointing today, to say the least.
Brandon Powell has now 8 catches on the year, 4 of them tonight. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Really unbelievable.
Ty Chandler on those screen passes was just devastating. That's one thing that's worried me a little bit. It looks like the Vikings were watching the Browns game, and the Browns had a lot of, it's not like their offense did that much, but they were having success with those screen passes, those quick hitters to just completely negate the rush. And the Vikings were doing the same thing. It was working every freaking screen to Hawkinson, every quick hitter to Ty Chandler, who's a nothing running back, but he is really fast. I don't know, like Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell, I would say his play calling was like 100 out of 100, but like also his management of the game, like the Niners shouldn't have even been in the game at the end. Like, what are they doing kicking a field goal there?
Well, how about when he opted to punt and he came up with a net? I mean, when they got to 4th and 4 from the 42 on their second to last drive, and they decided to punt to the Niners, and it went into the end zone. It was a net 22 yards. I'm thinking to myself, what in the hell game is that guy watching? I mean, I would have put it in Kirk Cousins' hands and had him drop back to pass. 4th and 4. This guy was converting 3rd and long at will. He needed a 3rd and 8, got it. 3rd and 10, got it. It's like he was converting the 3rd and 10, the 3rd and long so easily that 4th and 4, and they decided to go for the punt. And that was a break. That was an absolute break.
And how about the goal line? I mean, they had the ball on the 1 like multiple times, turned into field goals.
Yeah, this game was not as close. This was 22-17, but this game was not as close as the score indicates. The Vikings should have won this game by even more than they did. And what did Kev and Rye, what did you guys think of Wilks at the end of the first half? I mean, that just seemed like the most oddball.
What was that?
He has played so conservatively all season long, and just the coverage has been soft as hell all year long. They get into a situation where CMC scores a touchdown. They're only down 3 points.
And they have the ball.
Suddenly
the ball in the half. Then, like, whoa.
Yeah, suddenly they go with a 6-man blitz, and I froze it. And I looked at there was actually 7 guys. So 7 guys were in the 7 49er defenders were in the backfield. And Cousins is looking at man-to-man coverage. Not only were the Niners up front, not only was it a ridiculous call, then Mooney played it like they had some massive lead. Instead, he thinks he's got the pick. And then Addison, a tiny little 175-pound guy, rips it away from him and goes the distance for the touchdown. And suddenly it's 16-7 instead of 10-7 at the half after they missed the PAT. I mean, that was unbelievable.
That was a questionable call.
Very questionable.
I was just gonna say, when I was watching the play, I'm like, that's interesting. Why is Isaiah Oliver like coming off the edge right now? And like in this situation, and then of course it's like he comes off the edge, doesn't get to the quarterback, Addison steals the ball away from Ward, and then it's touchdown. There's no help behind him. I don't understand the play call in that scenario. I guess they see the advantage. They get a sack, maybe stop a field goal. But I mean, just play it safe. You're getting the ball at the half. I mean, that's a tough play.
Right. You're getting the ball in the third quarter to begin the third quarter, and you've got a 3-point game. If anything, you wanted to play conservatively there. And if they get the field goal, so be it, right? If they make it 13-7, okay. Instead, you give up the touchdown. And Mooney played it very aggressively, and then Wilks played it very aggressively up front. That one was like, I have to ask that question when we talked to Wilks this week is what in the heck were you thinking bringing the house on, and he rarely goes 5-man pressure. He went 6-man pressure, and then it looked like there was a 7th defender, kind of like in a delayed blitz situation. So you got 7 defenders in the backfield and man coverage behind it. I don't know what the hell they were trying to do. Even there, are you trying to get a turnover? Because even if you get a turnover, there's probably not enough time to really do anything.
You're trying to get a sack. I'm not sure. No, I can't exactly remember where they are in the field. Do you know, Rye, where they were in the field?
Yeah, the play. They were at their own 40-yard line on 3rd and 6.
If it was completed to Addison, they would have maybe had like a 55-yard field goal. But first, they had no timeout, so they would have had to get all the way down there, spike the ball. It wasn't going to happen. But I literally think, they said on the broadcast, and I actually agreed with them. I think Wilks was literally like, this team is so goddamn turnover prone. And that was probably part of the scouting report. Let's just send the house here and see if we can't, get a pick 6 or a fumble 6. But it's just like, what?
Yeah. Wow. If the 49ers game plan, if the game plan today was let's make Kirk lose this game for the Vikings, he did it. And he played well. He played great, actually, I thought. He played way better than he usually plays in prime time. Yeah. And that didn't
best I've seen Kirk Cousins play in a long time.
That was the best I've ever seen Kirk Cousins play.
But if you're Steve Wilks, seriously, Steve, the Vikings averaged 2.1 yards a carry. The halfback tossed Madison on the first play of the game, went for 19 yards. You just gave up 400 plus yards to a team that didn't have their number one receiver and had their replacement number one receiver in the locker room for about a quarter of the game. And you gave up 378 passing yards and 452 total yards. That's just beyond unacceptable. That is like that one. And then the other thing that was so discouraging watching this game is we just watched the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday in primetime look really, really good. And then add Kevin Byard in a trade this afternoon. And you're sitting there and you're hoping the 49ers were going to look good. I never once even tried to even think about betting the Niners today. Cause I'm just like, no, I don't believe in them tonight. I just don't. I don't believe in their ability to stop Cousins. I don't believe in their ability to really good quarterbacks against the 49ers. Cousins was pinpoint. He was pinpoint, but he made the Niner corners look bad, really bad.
Yeah.
And then obviously Purdy at the end had 2 drives and both picked by Cam Bynum. And the second one was really a bad pass where you're rolling right. It's first down. You're floating it in the middle of the field into a crowd of Viking defenders. Everybody's got a good look at you when you're throwing it. Terrible pass. The last one to me, the one to Jennings, you could argue miscommunication. He thought Jennings was going to continue the route.
The last one
Jennings kind of flattened it out. The last one was just awful. Just a terrible.
To Purdy's defense, I'm going to sound like a crazy Purdy lover right now, but I thought those were the only bad plays he had the entire game. If you go back,
he was good. Yeah. He was good otherwise.
Yeah. I thought he was actually really good. And if you look at the drives, a lot of the drives stalled out for either penalties or they got field goals, missed field goal. In the first half, they had 2 drives or 3 drives. One of them being the CMC fumble. There was no plays in that first half. I was surprised.
They didn't punt in the first half. The Niners punted 1 time all game.
And there's people, by the way, who are going to take huge liberties on Purdy in this thing. Rye said that some guy named Rich Madrid put out something on Purdy. What was it, Ryan? Then took it down.
Oh yeah. Well, like early in the game, like after he had like one kind of questionable throw early in the game where he like threw the ball a little bit high for Kittle and Kittle got hit in the nuts. And he said on national TV that he got kicked in the dick. Yeah, he said like something like about like, oh, it's October and Purdy's turning into a pumpkin. And then I just saw it. I went to look at it and retweet it because Purdy, I was just playing so well. It was deleted. But definitely a lot of people.
Rich Madrid has all-time bad quarterback takes, but it's fine.
I just replied to one of his tweets because he said that something I've been saying for years, for the past couple of years now, is that the 49ers defense is due for regression. I don't even know what that means. The Niners defense it's not like they turn the ball over that much. Last year was the most turnovers they've like ever had in a season under Shanahan. And their defense is just completely stacked, if not more stacked this year. I don't understand why that would be.
Well, it's funny. Dan, Coach Emilio joins us now as well. Danny, good to see you. He's got his Rangers hat on. I did bet the Rangers tonight. The Rangers took down the Astros. Bochy beat Dusty in Game 7 and are going on to the World Series, probably against the Phillies. But the Diamondbacks forced a Game 7 too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we get that. Is that tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me give you a sample of the chat off the start, because you don't really get a good feel for the chat until you get the people who chat in first, right? The people who throw the first, because they're like, I gotta log on and I gotta say this. So let's go to the front of the chat.
The trash.
Here we go. Matt says Shanahan and our new defensive coordinator lost us this game. And we got this one with a Bosa sucks. Okay. The nuclear option. The Yorks need to take the team from Jed. That's always coming. Turnovers killed us.
Logical answer. Yeah.
Captain Obvious, Greg Dayton. Greg, I love you, but there's no question the turnovers killed us. Maurice, Bosa is trash. 35 million MFer in dollars, stealing money. I mean, wait a second. There's got to be a Purdy sucks in here. Where's that? We got this one. Kyle doesn't have the balls to tell CMC to sit down, even though CMC played pretty well, even though he had the fumble early. Let's see. Where's got to be somebody? Oh, here we go. Fire Wilks. You knew that was coming. Fire Wilks was. Oh, here we go. Teasy, Pumpkin Purdy. He's turned into a pumpkin. He sucks. He sucks.
Do we have any Moody? Bring in Robbie Gould.
Here we go. Maurice. Grant Cohn was right. Purdy is just a guy, and Bosa should have been traded.
I love these
Steve.
fans.
Purdy is not him. Oh, I hate that's like the lamest take of all time. Is the him is him, not him. Those are bad.
I wonder
too.
if all these people live their lives this emotionally up and down too. I mean, it's like, I'm not married anymore. Forget it.
Jim Everett, the great. Larry's going to blame everybody but Brock.
Wait, I'm actually curious. Like, there's so many reasons like why they played bad today. Like, what would you guys say would be like? What would be the number one reason in your head for why they played bad?
I think the Niner corners are mid. I really do. I think
him.
They're not him.
They're not. Mooney Ward is not him. Isaiah Oliver is a jag. He's just a guy. You know what I mean? I would say Demo Lenore's okay, but I mean, I don't see like a really good corner there in that three, and that's their top three. Their top three corners. I don't see an Emmanuel Mosley. I don't see a number one corner. I see Mooney as a 2. I see Lenore as a 2. I see Oliver as a depth piece. And that's their top 3 guys. Mr. 49er for life says this team has problems and Wilks is one of them. We got another one here. Hacktastic. Wilks is a very big problem. We got this one. Daniel Brown. Put Wilks on a damn Greyhound bus. This guy and his scheme is whack as fuck. Now that's what I like. I like a whack as fuck. Free Wilks, Joey V, Wilks sucks D. I mean, it's a lot of Wilks.
Oh, that's a good one.
Niners worldwide. We need Brian Burns. What would you guys? I mean, I'll tell you the one thing I didn't like in this game. I didn't like how the 49er defense in the second half dialed it up. It's like, well, wait a second. Where was that intensity in the first half? I thought the 49er defense played way better as the game went on, but where's that urgency in the first half? You're on the road. It's Monday Night Football. You're going up against a quarterback who's clearly hot. The Vikings are desperate. If they had lost this game, they would have started 0-4 at home for the first time ever in the history of their franchise. So the pressure was on the Vikings to get this thing done. You knew they were going to come out and bring everything they had, and instead, the Niners looked really, really kind of like sleepwalking a little bit. I mean, Greenlaw is Greenlaw. He's just awesome. He just crushes people.
God.
But I mean, they lean so heavily on Greenlaw and Warner to be awesome. And I just think that where's Drake since week 1? Where's Farrell? Where's Armstead?
Where's
Hunter. Hargrave?
Where's Hunter?
Where? I mean, what we haven't talked about, and I thought we were going to be talking about it. I thought for sure that if the Niners lost this game, that here we are, we're 26 minutes into this live stream. I would have thought for sure if the Niners lost this game, we were talking about Jalen Moore. Jalen Moore could not handle Danielle Hunter. Jalen Moore this, Jalen Moore that. Where was Trent? Oh, my God, they need offensive line help. Guys, Jalen Moore stood up and played fine.
It was McKivitz who got beat. McKivitz got beat on that one sack.
Who did?
McKivitz.
Speaking of sacks, how about lack of 45 pass attempts for Kirk Cousins with not one sack, and they blitzed like crazy. I don't know what is it that the Niners defensive line cannot get to the quarterback.
I think Wilks has to get on the sideline. Got to get that man on the sideline.
I just don't understand how you could drop back 45 times and not sack him once.
That's like the way my mind was working during the game is I was like, I fully accepted that the Niners are just not getting home today. They're not going to get home. There's nothing special that the Niners are going to all of a sudden start doing. But in my mind, I was like, okay, come on. There are just lucky plays that happen. Like, where is the one lucky play where, somebody's able to get home or a turnover gets created? It just never happened.
I'll tell you the two keys to the game, in my opinion, the two plays that turned the game around, if you could take them back. The fumble on McCaffrey at the 8-yard line.
First drive of the game, I mean?
Yep. They would have scored a TD. They would have been up 7-0 and changes the game completely. Instead, the Vikings go down and score, and it's 7-0 Vikes. The other play was right before the half, the takeaway touchdown from Addison off of Mooney Ward. If Mooney Ward picks that, it's halftime, it's 10-7 instead of 16-7.
But what about the call, Dan? The call was a 6-man pressure at the 40-yard line. It's like, come on. Why are you risking that kind of I mean, Wilks has played very conservatively, I thought, this year, with his calls and his coverages. And then you pick that moment to get super aggressive.
They had no timeouts. Only thing that could happen when you do something like that is you either get a big defensive play or you get a big offensive play. He got the big offensive play. So he took the gamble. I mean, even if they make the completion with, it's a zone coverage, they make the completion, they don't have time to probably score a touchdown. They got to run down, spike it, and then they get one play.
No, maybe like a 55-yard field goal, but probably not. So the other thing is Steve Wilks is up in the box. So he's what is he, when he's looking down during that play, what is he thinking? He sees the entire field. He sees the secondary. He sees the open space. I can't comprehend what he was thinking.
I can't remember the last time this defense got a coverage sack. When was the last time the coverage played so well they got a sack? Did that happen in any games?
You know what? I'll say this in defense of the coverage. They were just on the field for so long. They were playing pretty well at the beginning of the game, I felt like Mooney had some great plays. That one that almost was pass interference was just shocking good coverage. But But I think just as the game wore on, like, you just can't leave the defense out there and just and have Kirk, almost called him Mahomes, have Kirk Cousins back there just dicing it up with literally like no pressure in his face.
What do you think, by the way, is going through Kyle's mind? Do you think Kyle is getting on that plane going, we got to get Kirk Cousins. We got to get Kirk Cousins. Or do you think he's seen enough in Brock where he's like, you know what, this was bad, 2 bad interceptions in the fourth, but you think he's more, do you think he's wed to Brock, or do you think he's sitting there going, still pining for Kirk Cousins? I mean, if you were ever going to pine for Kirk Cousins, this is the game to pine for him, right? Because he was spectacular today. But he's 7-11 career on Monday Night Football.
He also
3-10, isn't he?
Like people talk about.
Well, I thought 7-11, and maybe it was 7-11 in prime time, something like that.
Yeah, that's probably right. He is like so into his routine, he struggles at prime time. But the thing, like, people are gonna come away from this and be like, "Oh my God, Kirk Cousins is so good." But it's like, if you actually watch Kirk Cousins games, like, he does stupid stuff all the time: fumbles, terrible picks, takes bad sacks, and this was just like his perfect game.
Yeah, he just had a.
If you hit him, he starts to come back to earth. They just didn't hit him enough.
They didn't hit him.
They didn't impact him enough.
I would like to see that last play again. I didn't rewind it and watch it again, the interception, but
he rolled right, and he was looking for the receiver coming back.
Right. I was wondering,
he threw it into what looked like a crowd.
Did he have enough room?
Bynum made a great play.
Right. Did he have enough room to run it for 10, 12 yards and get out of bounds on the right side if he would have kept running? That's what I wanted to look back at, because
I would think so, based on all the defenders that were in the picture on the left side.
I also wouldn't mind him scrambling a little bit more.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
He had a couple. Purdy did have a couple amazing scrambles in this game.
He had one that I was like, "Wow, he's fast."
99.
I didn't know he's that fast.
99.
Yeah,
yeah. I would like to. I'm going to have to go back and look at it, because I think if he did have room to take the 12 yards, I know there was 34 seconds left or something at the start of that play, so it would have, they were at their 40-yard line of the Vikings. If he could have got it down to the 30-yard line, 28-yard line with, 25 seconds left, I don't know. It's hindsight 2020, but the throw was very risky because there were DBs. I mean, to get that ball in on the run over Bynum's head, gosh.
Do you agree with Dennis here? He says Purdy was bad again, and is certainly part of the reason why they lost. But this defense not being as advertised is the 49ers' biggest problem. That's one perspective. H says 2 interceptions at the end of a 1-score game. It's the quarterback's fault 100%. What is the Niners like? Okay, so you can play the blame game, or you could talk about like.
I like this comment. Wisnowski is our best player. What a punt he had earlier. He's awesome.
Bam Bam's already getting into on Shanahan. Brock's the real deal.
Look
at that.
I mean, I'll just say this: you can't pin it all on Purdy. You can't. Football's a team game, and Purdy made some mistakes there, and they stand out because it was at the end of the game, and then the other one was, not a great pass either. But the defense gave up how many freaking yards?
452. 452.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, Brock's not out there on the defense. Okay. I mean, you're giving up 450 yards. How many third down conversion? I didn't think the Vikings were going to punt. I mean, they almost didn't. They almost didn't punt. One punt.
And the punt that they did have was probably a mistake.
I mean, they could have went for it. That's what I mean. So you got to look at that and say, and then, I mean, the one missed field goal by Moody, but then, the Vikings guy missed 2 field goals, right? And an extra point. Did he miss 2 field goals or 1?
He missed
a field goal.
One. He missed one. He missed the 40-yarder.
Okay, he missed the one.
Well, 2 if you want to count last week's game.
No, I mean, I'm not talking about Moody. I mean the Vikings. I was trying to say
Yeah,
Moody's,
Joseph missed.
so you
missed
can't.
one, right?
Yeah, I mean, Moody's kick didn't cost them because the guy missed the extra point and he missed the field goal. So you can't say that. Moody, all they needed was 5 more yards and they would have been in field goal range to win the game at the end had he made the first one. So you can't.
If
really,
Moody had missed the 55-yarder,
I think he would have been talk
that would
of.
have been it.
No, I think it would have been. I think a lot of talk would have got heavier. There'd still be a little talk, but not much because he didn't cost him the game.
All right, here's the question, and we got a lot of people. G. Martinez, this team is not who I thought they were. Bam Bam says, I love the Niners. I love my Niners, but I swear I hate some of the choices they make. It's too much politics involved with them. Not sure what he means there. What would you say? How would you react off this one? There's going to be a reaction. Obviously, they got a quick turnaround. The Bengals will be fully rested. There'll be people that will say that they can't lean on Moody. Do you say that he saved himself with the long kick? There are people who say that Shanahan. Grant was saying Shanahan's one Purdy loss away from going to Darnold.
What?
That's crazy talk. But obviously Purdy was bad in the fourth quarter. Come on. I'm a Brock Purdy fan, and there's no doubt in my mind he played a great game through 3 quarters. But it's a 4-quarter game, and in the fourth quarter he turned it over twice, and the last one was really bad. And then the defense, which a ton of money and emphasis and everything has been put into this defense. The trade deadline is literally 1 week away. It's a week from tomorrow is the NFL trade deadline. The Eagles today traded for Kevin Byard.
Yeah, they got
There's a lot of talk. The Niners are dialing around. Supposedly there was a call that the Bills called the Niners about Dre Greenlaw. That's insulting as hell. If I were John Lynch, I'd be like, hey, Brandon Beane, fuck right off. You know what I mean? You're calling about Dre Greenlaw. I'm the Vegas favorite to win the Super Bowl 10 days ago. Now you suddenly think we're going to hand you Dre Greenlaw?
He was offering Josh Allen.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the offer? Because I think the Bills are toast without Milano. They're just looking for somebody who can replace some of that stuff.
How about the Niners today having both their linebackers look like they suffer significant injuries, get up, leave, and then come back, and they're fine?
Scary.
That was scary.
So violent, man. That game is just brutal. I thought when especially Greenlaw went down, I thought, oh crap, his hand. Did you see his hand going like that? I thought, oh gosh, he got concussed or something because he was having I thought it was like a nerve or something because the way his neck went down, I said, oh crap, if that's as bad as it looks. But fortunately,
how do the Niners react to this loss? Do they do something dramatic? Do they make a trade? Do they sign Robbie Gould? Do they go to Sam Darnold? Do they bench Isaiah Oliver? What do they do? Anything dramatic coming off of this thing? And if you were John Lynch, what would you do to get this thing back on the beam? Because they now they're staring at 3 losses in a row going into the bye because that Bengal team is desperate and rested and going to show up at Levi's with some freaking urgency. And the 49ers are going to be, flying home. They're going to watch this film. They probably already watched it, but they're going to be watching this film on the flight home. The players will be off tomorrow. The coaches will go right to the facility. They won't sleep at all. This is life in the NFL, by the way. Everybody thinks, oh, I want to play. I want to be in the NFL. I want to coach. I want to scout. I want to play. No, you don't. You want to be home on the couch with your wife and kids, and you want to have a nice rest in your bed. These guys are going to step off that bird, and they're going to go right back to their office. And with the stench of this loss on them, they're going to sit there and try to figure it out, put this one to bed, and get ready for the Bengals and be ready to hit the practice field 24 hours from now to prepare for another tough opponent. This is the thankless side of the NFL. This is the part of the schedule that I do not miss. And I do, and there's a reason people say, well, hey man, why'd you give up scouting and get into the radio? Because I don't want to be I don't want to sleep at the facility and never see my family and just, I mean, it's just like, it's thankless. This is the part where you have to really love it. What reaction do they have after this one? Do they do anything?
I'll tell you, I think they do something this week because I think they need a jolt and a spark, and they also need to make a deal before, for the future anyway. And this is the last week. I don't think they wait till Monday to do it. I think they make a deal to try and get somebody into the game this Sunday.
What do you want though, Danny? What do you want? Because
I want a top flight corner. I want a shutdown corner.
Okay, so even though they didn't get any rush on Kirk Cousins, you don't want more rushers. You want more coverage.
Well, if you can go get a rusher, who would I think Hunter
I want Montez Sweat.
Yeah, from Washington, he would be good.
I'll give you a trade. Call Rand Carthon, who clearly is out of in the trade game. He just gave Kevin Byard to Philly for Edmonds and a 5th and a 6th. This is an all-pro player going to the Eagles for a 5th and a 6th round pick and Terrell Edmonds. How about a day 2 pick or a day 3 pick or some combination to the Titans for Sean Murphy, Bunting, and Arden Key? Send those guys over.
They're going to need something. And I'll tell you, we talked about the Niners always getting off to slow starts and being 4-4, 5-4. They're staring 5-4 in the face right now if they don't get off the schneid, because I'm telling you, if they lose and then go have a bye, they go to Jacksonville, who's also has a bye. So Jacksonville will just be sitting there rested as well, waiting for the Niners to arrive. They've got to win this game and go into the bye at 6-2, because if they go 5-3 and then come out of the bye and lose, they could be not only fighting, forget the home field advantage, the 1 seed, but try fighting Seattle for the division.
Swerve says trade for Pat Surtain. Golden State Picker says Armstead's horrible. Kev, Rye, what's your reaction to this? If you're Lynch, if you're Shanahan, what should they do? Should they do anything, or should they just lick their wounds, prepare for Cincinnati, and it's all there for them? They just have to get better, or do you look outside for help?
I think it's too little, too late for next week. I don't think that you could realistically make any move that would have a starter by next week, unless you traded for someone crazy like Surtain. I think they should get a corner. I think if you're looking into next week, you're like, fuck, because it's the Bengals with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Higgins. You just got burned by fucking Powell and Osborne and
KJ Osborne.
I mean, like this problem.
You just got beat by the Osbornes.
Kirk Cousins is probably the best passer you've faced all season, and you didn't look great against him. So I don't think that they have enough in the secondary right now. That's where I think the biggest issue.
Half Dead said Cousins had been sacked 15 times before tonight.
That's
none tonight.
He's like not great. Like he takes sacks. He takes bad sacks. It's just so insane. I'd say like maybe a positive from this game is maybe it does force them to make a trade for somebody. Maybe they do take a bigger swing, but ultimately. The Shanahan Lynch experience, if we look back just, like the last 4 seasons, like usually there's a point at the beginning of the season where they just take a dump down their legs. They were 2-4, I think, in 2021, and then they turned it around. Last year they had a couple bad losses in a row. So I think that just this year, I was sort of expecting them to lose to the Steelers the first game of the season, thinking like they just always get off to these bad starts. Instead, they came out and they looked like they were the most prepared team in the entire NFL. But now I think this is the dumping down the leg portion of the season. I hope it doesn't carry into the Bengals, but I think the Niners after the bye will do what they always have done under Shanahan, which is just rip off, turn back into that juggernaut. I also think not having Debo, it turns out pretty big deal. Seems like, I mean, Ayuk's fantastic and all, but like they kind of need somebody else to help the guy out. It can't just be Ayuk. I mean, that's what you kind of felt at the end of the game there, where I don't know, a lot of these guys, when they get in these, minute left situations, it seems like they have a lot of different options. And in my mind, it was like Kittle. I mean, Juwan Jennings is good for, 12 yards here, but it was really just Brandon Ayuk.
I'm telling you, the speed thing is what I said last week. They need speed on the wideouts. I would find another speedster that is got great moves. That can.
You want more offense, huh, Danny?
I do. I think they need a third receiver that can really separate and get open. I mean, I look at those Super Bowl teams of the Chiefs.
Who do you want? Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. I mean, I threw out Rondale Moore, but that's an interdivision trade.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Hardman, but he's back with the Chiefs. I said last week Hardman would be a good guy to get. I think
you want D-Hop. D-Hop's with
Tennessee. I would love D-Hop but Tennessee would. Yeah, they might get rid of him. I mean, D-Hop is a possession guy that's going to get open. He's a 50-50 ball guy.
He's just an upgraded Jennings.
Yeah, he gets open more, and he gets open a little further down the field. Jennings, like you said, Rise, more of a 12-yard guy. I just think they need a possession type receiver. Besides,
but you're not saying possession. You're saying a vertical threat. Maybe Danny Gray. You believe in Danny Gray?
Can Purdy get it to him? I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, I mean, that's a good question. The other question is, can he get on the field and stay on the field? Golden State Picker says Shanna choke. We've got Kirk Shields' secondary is trash. Let's take a 30-second timeout from the unhappy Niner fan for this mention of an unhappy Giants fan. From Kyle McKiernan, Bochy back to the World Series. Congrats, Larry Bear, you fucking clown. In your face, you guys are so dumb. There you go. And that Kyle McKiernan chat brought to you by the Pavlovich and podcast. There you go. Check it out. It's on Apple, iTunes, or wherever.
The people that think Bochy was forced out are insane. Okay.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Kind of like Brian Sabian.
Yeah, he's insane. Saves. What does Saves know? Saves doesn't know. How about this one? Lynch, get on the phone for multiple positions. 4-2 is not a winning Super Bowl now team. They're 5-2, right? 5-2.
They're 5-2. They win next week. They put a lot of everything to rest. They go into the bye, have a deal. It's
gonna be a tough game to win though next week.
They better. Okay, the D line. Even though the Bengals are coming off a bye,
blaming Wilks, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Ryan, I'm sorry.
Yeah. A lot of even though they're coming off a bye. I mean, anybody that's watched Cincinnati, really the past 3 years, like the defense should at least have 4 sacks. I'm calling it. They need at least 4 sacks for me to feel comfortable. And if you get Burrow time, it's over. It's absolutely over.
Well, and then that's the thing. Chase has been hot the last couple of weeks. Donlin Buchanan, John Lynch is about to work his magic. Man, if he can jumpstart this thing right now, I'll give him credit. Supposedly the Niners, Lynch and Adam Peters have been dialing around the league looking for stuff.
Well, if you take that restructuring and leaving themselves $40 million in cap, it looks like now. I mean, there was talk. Well, maybe they'll just roll it over into next year, and then they'll have some leeway to sign Ayuk and still be competitive going forward.
There's far more urgency there.
Yeah, there's more urgency now because it's like, look, your season, this is a Super Bowl or bust team, it feels like. And if you're going to start tanking to games, losing games that you should win, I mean, that's not good at all. I mean, you had to win. You had to win one of these two.
You can't eliminate the Super Bowl as the focus of the year. Eric Hernandez says, need cornerback and a run-stuffing defensive tackle or DJ Reed and DJ's Jones available. Reed, I think, is dinged up. Jones, I think, is available. Nick Nice, of course. John Lynch needs to fire Kyle Shanahan. Oh, great.
Oh, God. Well, so, I got a question. So, Steve Wilks, this is really like the only sample size we've seen of Steve Wilks running this defense where the Niners did not have a lead. Because it's a lot easier to call plays and be aggressive and do what Steve Wilks wants to do when the Niners are up. They're up. They I mean,
Good
they would have
point.
been up in this game. It's just like they're normally up 7-0, and it's like, boom, the pressure's on the other team. But in this game where they were trailing, where the hell was the defense? And what kind of worries me is like, I'll hear interviews with like Dre Greenlaw after the game, and like he's still talking about DeMeco Ryans and how DeMeco Ryans ingrained this mindset. To me, the most defining factor of the 49ers defense the past couple of years is that they are so fast. They play with so much speed, and they're not in their heads. They just play instinctive, and they play so fast. This looked like this defense did not look fast at all today. It looked just ordinary, absolutely ordinary.
I will say this, Jimmy K's like Randy Gregory brought on all this bullshit. Yeah, great. Let's blame Randy Gregory. They haven't won since they got Gregory. He's poisoned the locker room. Sway says not one sack. I'll say this. I don't think that the 49ers are one player away. I don't. I think if they make a move, it's got to be for a couple players at least, maybe two, maybe three. If they're really going to improve, they could use another linebacker. They could use another defensive back. They could use another rusher. They could use another receiver. They could use a second tight end that's worth a damn. I was very disappointed. Did you see that combo block where you had, I think it was Warner and Jennings trying to block Hunter, and he still just went right through him like a knife through butter and got into the backfield and made a big play? It's like,
what is
come on,
Warner?
guys, you're combo blocking one guy and you can't hold the block for even a second and a half. I mean, if Warner can't stand up as a blocker in a combo block, what's he doing on the team? Because he doesn't catch it. He's not an awesome receiver. So if he's not giving you something significant as a blocker, it goes back to Office Space. What would you say you do here? I mean, I don't know. I don't know, trying to be as nice about it as possible, but I mean, come on.
He's a nice guy. We talked to him last year, or I remember I talked to him with you last year in the locker room. But it's puzzling. What exactly do you do here? Because it seems like Kittle is just like the only dude that is like an absolute stud blocking tight end. Then Dwelly, I mean, honestly, confused the hell out of me that Dwelly, that was a great play call. Like no one was expecting Ross Dwelly to catch that ball today in the red zone.
Angel Diaz says we're booty. Pam Bam says Purdy is not fine.
By the way, Kyle in his post game said they asked him about Purdy, how he played. He says he thought he played great. He said he just had the two throws. The one bad one was really to Jennings, the INT. He said the last one was just a desperation, hurry up kind of throw that got away from him a little bit. He really didn't blame him too much for that because of the situation. But like you said, for first three quarters, he played really well.
He completed 85% going to the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Abstract says 22 points allowed. They had an interception and a fumble recovery. The defense showed up. Purdy did not. The defense showed up. This is supposed to be one of the best defenses in all of pro football. The guy dropped back to pass 45 times. He's not mobile. They didn't have one sack on him, and he owned third down, and he's still completing passes on third down. I don't know.
22 points does not tell the story of the game.
I like how the first play of the game, it was like, and Madison runs for 19 yards, the longest of his season. I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, here we go. Like, he sucks. And, like, he's getting 20 yards on the first play. What's going on?
All right, we got a bunch of super chats adding up. Let me mention the sponsors here. We're brought to you by Marin Autoglass, marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030. We're also brought to you by New York Style Sausage Company. The only kind of Italian sausage that I eat is New York Style Italian sausage. It's fantastic. Try it. You'll love it. And, of course, the title sponsor of the Krueg Show, Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California, 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. We also have one of our sponsors is Underdog Fantasy, and you can enter by clicking the link in the description. Use that promo code Krueg, and they'll match you for up to $100 from Underdog Fantasy. And we're also brought to you by our good friends at Mojo Fantasy. Mojo Fantasy is the newest and best daily fantasy app And you can use that link in the description, use that promo code Krueg, and you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100 at Mojo Fantasy. Also, Mojo Fantasy, we're having a jersey giveaway on Thanksgiving night. We'll be giving away a Brock Purdy and or a Nick Bosa jersey to we'll have a little raffle for all the people who register over at Mojo Fantasy and type in Krueg Show or type in Krueg at the promo code. That automatically enters you into a chance to win a jersey, either Bosa or Purdy, on Thanksgiving night. Thanks to all of them for being proud sponsors of the Krueg Show. Let's get into the supers real quick, and we'll fire through the supers as fast as we can here. Saul Goodman says DC, kicker, and possibly Purdy are all liabilities. Defensive coordinator, the kicker, and Purdy.
Yeah.
He's blaming Purdy and Wilks and Moody. We got this one from Joey Mellons. No touches for JP Mason. 1 touch for Elijah Mitchell. No Ayuk in the second half. I needed 16 points from Ayuk to win in fantasy. I'm royally pissed. Yeah. I had Jordan Addison in fantasy, and I was kind of hoping he would not do quite as good as he did. Heem Layden says, no trade can help us. We suck.
Okay.
All right. Fans are very positive. Dark Ranger, where is the fear inspired from our defense that we saw seasons before? It left with D'Amico and these defensive weapons. Wilks should be ashamed of himself. I do think there could be that he has an awful lot of talent there. They should be getting a little bit more out of that talent. John Muniz says, how disappointing is the D line? All the money invested and nothing to show. What a joke. I don't think a trade will help us at this point. I do understand what people are saying there, guys, because I don't think one player, like even if the Niners got Patrick Surtain, I don't think that just solves all their problems. They'd probably need at least 3 players on defense and 2 players on offense.
Well, what do you think is the problem on the DL? Because he's talking about Wilks, but I mean, that's Kacherek's group there on the defensive line. You got all pros. You got Hargrave and Bosa and then Armstead, and then whoever the fourth guy is, whether it's Farrell or if it's Jackson.
I think they took a major step back, Danny, when they lost Ebukam and Willis and Amenahue and replaced them with Farrell and Hyder and and Austin Bryant. And now you're looking at they got Randy Gregory, but I didn't notice Gregory at all tonight. Did you guys?
He was close a couple times.
He had one play that was good, I remember.
Yeah.
But
wait, do you agree? Okay, so I'm going back to, not to put this guy just totally on blast, but I'm going back and forth with Rich Madrid on Twitter because I was asking, I was honestly curious why the 49ers defense would be due for regression. He said, because in the NFL, nothing is sustainable for that long. They've been a top 5 defense for 4 seasons already. Regression always comes. But that's not like there's no reason for regression. I just said like they pay their starting quarterback $800
weeks ago against Dallas.
Yeah, they pay their starting quarterback $800,000. Like if anything, this defense is arguably more loaded than last year with Hargrave. Like there's regression because, like for example, in Seattle, all of a sudden they have to pay Russell Wilson, but there's no reason. Like if anything, this should be like the best Niners defense.
You just added the number 1 defensive line free agent in Javon Hargrave.
Yeah.
I don't know that they were banking on regression, but they did lose a little depth up front. And I'm not a big Isaiah Oliver guy at the nickel corner. I just think that his coverage is soft. If you give him multiple moves, he's very leggy. He gets turned around. He, that one play where he literally just ran into the receiver and got a penalty, that was just a little loop, and he just didn't have the body control to mirror that player through the loop. And he just kind of bumped into him and knocked him off stride. I also think that the depth at corner, I mean, these guys have to play every single snap because they don't have any belief in any of their backup corners. Your 4th and your 5th corner have to play in the NFL. And with the Niners, I don't think they have any real confidence in their backup corners. So their top 3 guys play a ton.
A lot of pressure on a corner when he's got to go man on man. I don't care, if it's a 3rd string, like they got, their receivers with Addison and Jefferson were out for a period of time, and Hawkinson was out for a little bit. And you got to be able to give them some zone looks at times. And I didn't see the fact that, Warner and Greenlaw didn't seem to be dropping far back. I don't know if they were rushing, on those plays, but there was so many plays over the middle where there was nobody between the linebackers and the DBs. It was just wide open constantly all night long.
And once Cousins got into a rhythm, man, midway through the second quarter, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a hard game to win, just because Kirk in rhythm is.
I just thought they'd get to him at least once or twice, put him down, and then
he starts to regress.
Then he starts to throwing errant passes, and
he was good all night. And I mean, there were times where they were in the neighborhood all around him. He's still throwing off his back foot, looking like he's throwing it right over the linebacker, right in front of the DB. I mean, he threaded the needle. Cousins was spectacular tonight. If you watch that all 22, it's like there were times they were close to getting him, and he still found a way to get it out. I'll tell you the other rule that I cannot stand. Absolutely cannot stand.
I know what you're going to say.
Is I can't stand now. I hated it last week when PJ Walker did it. Purdy got called for a fumble tonight, and then they said incomplete pass. Eliminate that you're going to the ground, just throwing it away. I mean, it's just like, I know they want to favor the offense, but I mean, how are defensive ends ever going to get sacks if the quarterback can just at any point just kind of push the ball forward? There was one play where Cousins threw a pass. He threw a pass.
Oh, straight down into the ground.
Down into the ground. I mean, it's like
a dart.
That's not a pass.
No.
That is not a pass. And that can't be an avenue for the quarterback. I mean, you either have to take the sack there. I mean, they should just eliminate that as a rule. You can't have the quarterback with the ability to just throw it into the turf at any point. It kills the defensive effort, I think.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody today about the game, and I was telling them, I says, one thing I really, really hate about the NFL, it's hard to watch, is the constant flags for defensive holding or defensive illegal touch. I'm watching these plays, and these wide receivers are making the initial contact. And I believe it's a form they're teaching the wide receivers. Just go out, put your hand into the DB, and then he kind of gets stuck clinging to you, and they'll call it every time. I don't see how the defense can guard anybody because they're constantly throwing flags for I thought Mooney Ward, one of his calls tonight was just bogus.
Yeah, no, I know. It was.
How are you supposed to guard a guy?
Yeah, you can't have that exchange between the receiver and all of a sudden it's like there's any contact. Well, the receiver, the defender's allowed to keep his space there. What's he supposed to go? Get out of the way and let the guy run by him. It so favors the offense.
I didn't like the Demo Lenore call in the end zone where he
that was the other one. That was the other one.
His hand was in the way of his hand, so he couldn't get his hand up. But it's like,
but if you look at it real close, Kev, the first contact was by the wide receiver. The wide receiver holds
and
down.
It's game to game. And it's like some games they allow the hand fighting, and other games they don't. Last night in the Miami game, a defensive player yanked Cedric Wilson's face mask, and it went uncalled.
Yep.
How does a play to a receiver and they're yanking the guy's face mask and you see his head go off to the side? That goes uncalled, but hand fighting is called. I mean, it's just the levels of inconsistency are huge. Johnny Will Nabong says trade deadline defense, a defensive player or an offensive player. Eagles got Julio and Kevin Byard. Yeah. Marco Bravo says Purdy's coming down to earth. We got this one from Rome, gut level. Does Wilks know how to coach defense? Shaking my head. We got this one from Michael Hamilton. Brock sucked when it mattered. Defense is overpaid. Batman 29 says fact. 49ers haven't won in Minnesota since 1992.
What about the playoff game?
In Minnesota?
Didn't they play at Minnesota and they ran the ball a zillion times?
No, I
think you're thinking
I thought that was at
Atlanta.
home.
Oh, yeah,
No,
it
they
was
played
at home.
Minnesota
That
at
was at
home.
Michael Rowley says, I want Wilks fired now. Wow. Hicks says Wilks won't admit it, but I think he doesn't trust his cornerbacks to play man coverage, which explains his conservative play calling, which affects the pass rush. Well, conservative until the end of the second quarter, and then all of a sudden it was, send the house. Hunter
I like what
says,
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I like what Ash K says. The 49ers lose games in week 6 and week 7 to lose back-to-back games for the first time since week 6 and week 7 of last year.
Yeah, this is kind of where they've stumbled. Hunter BMX says Jake Booty. Okay, very creative there. Johnny Granado, yes, Bosa's predictable, getting set pre-snap like a sprinter, shaking his leg. Ryan was the brain. Ryan's was the brain.
D'Amico.
Oh, D'Amico Ryans. I got you. We got this one from Elmer Arana. Light the beam. Love the show. Did they play tonight? No. Robert Coleman. Robert Coleman just says, hey, there you go. How about it? Thank you, Robert. Titus Moeller says, I feel like Bosa has been hinting subtly that he's not comfortable with some of Wilks' play calling. Are you concerned at all about Purdy's judgment? I'm not concerned about Purdy's judgment, but there was going to be some regression to the mean overall in how he's playing. He's not going to win 90% of his games. But I do think you heard Aikman. I mean, Aikman through 3 quarters sounded like he wanted to adopt Brock Purdy as his son.
Yeah.
I mean, he seriously sounded like he was watching a quarterback that he's in love with. I'll say one thing about Bosa. When Oliver had his defensive PI or hold or whatever they called it, Bosa, you can see Bosa on the back end go, like how he seemed very frustrated by Oliver's penalty there. Carson Taylor, do you think Marshawn Lattimore, J.C. Horn, or Joey Bosa are available, and what would it cost? Or Cordero Patterson for the offense? J.C. Horn's hurt right now, but I think Carolina might move him. I've seen articles that say they might. Lattimore would be fantastic. I don't think he's available. Joey Bosa, I don't believe is available. That's what I would say on that. Daza says, still think Brock Purdy is the 8th quarterback in the NFL. Cousins had 350 yards passing to Hawkinson and a rookie. The game is not all on Brock Purdy, but he's not a franchise quarterback. I think he is their franchise quarterback. And as far as 8th, he definitely regressed in the 4th quarter tonight, but I would say Brock Purdy is good enough to win with. I really believe that.
I think that the honest discussion to have about Purdy is like, and honestly, in my mind, I'm okay if this is the truth. I still think they can win a Super Bowl with it, but it's like, is he the kind of guy that actually can take a team with a minute left and no timeouts, go all the way and score a touchdown, and you feel comfortable about it? Because I didn't think that they were going to score a touchdown at the end there. And, it's kind of like
because of him, you mean?
Not necessarily because it's just like a combination of that. And I don't know. I feel like Kyle he is such a tight ass about like his play calls. And in those situations, it does kind of involve the quarterback, getting out and kind of making some creative stuff happen. But I think there's only, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Herbert, maybe. There's only really maybe 8 guys in the league that you put them into that situation. And I, as like, let's say a bettor, am like, oh, they're totally going down the field.
I still think the problem with their offense is they lack speed at wide receiver. I just don't think they have a burner. And I think having a burner opens up the field more underneath. Like that, like you said, that last drive, I'm watching the field. I don't like the pattern. The guys don't get big separation.
I kind of agree. I mean, the Niners, think about it. You either have guys who run away or they run through you, and Kittle's a run through you. Debo's a run through you. Ayuk has got a little bit of wiggle, but he's basically a physical receiver as well. Jennings runs through you. Mm-hmm. Who's the guy on this offense that runs away from you? Who you're just like really worried? Where's their Jordan Addison? Who's slithery and difficult to cover? I think Ayuk, but Ayuk is not a burner by chance. I mean, he's
pretty
more
fast.
slithery than the other guys they have.
Yeah.
But I kind of agree with Danny. I think one more explosive weapon would be nice. Dark Ranger says, "Can we trade for a defensive coordinator?" Yeah, I mean, it was not a good day today for Wilks. I
My
thought
thought on
Kyle-
Wilks. Sorry, you can go, Ray.
Oh, I was gonna say Kyle apparently is hinting a lot from what I'm seeing on Twitter, hinting a lot of like he's pissed at the defense.
at the defense. Well, I mean,
And yeah.
you gave up 452 yards to a team that didn't have Justin Jefferson and who averaged 2.1 yards per carry against the Bears last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever. Because it was last week.
My thing on Wilks is that to me, it seems like they brought him in because Kosaric didn't want to be the defensive coordinator and he wanted to just coach the defensive line. So they brought in a guy who's just a secondary, and now he's using the secondary to blitz. So it's like the secondary I feel like is worse in coverage now as they were last year, and like they're not getting they're not getting either. They're not getting coverage. They're not getting pass rush. So
I thought they were going to get Fangio in the offseason, but then Miami grabbed him.
Heck, based on what I saw in that Cleveland game, what about Schwartz? He was available as well, and he also went with the wide 9. I just don't think they like Schwartz as a guy. Calba says, ultimately, if they play like this in late December, it's a problem. But you're going to have the ups and downs of a season, and all that matters is that they peak at the right time. It's not like they got blown out. I don't think they can get blown out, to be honest. Ron Holder, not a super, but he says, Larry, do you still think Brock is the one? I do. I think Brock's good enough to win with. I really do. I think he was really good through 3 quarters, and he just didn't. He had a bad 4th quarter. Remix channel, Brock's going to win us a ring. Keep hating. Okay. So some people are supporting Brock. Some people are against him. We got this one for suspiciously specific. Say that 5 times fast. Why did they stop throwing the ball to Ayuk? Yeah. I mean, where was Ayuk in the second half? Did Ayuk catch a ball in the second half?
I don't think so.
Jason B, you knew this would come. Get Trey Lance back.
Hey, and all those guys that are out there, ripping on Purdy or this or that. Josh Allen lost to the Patriots yesterday and couldn't put any points hardly on the board.
Justin Herbert just threw 2 picks and lost another one.
Well, if you believe if you believe Greg Cosell, I heard him on KMBR say that last week the guys over at NFL Films that looked at Joe Burrow said that Burrow missed 8 gimmies. Yeah. 8 just like throws that he would normally make in his sleep. He missed 8 of them last week. So, I mean, I would say this. I mean,
Purdy set a bar that only Purdy could like. He set a bar so high that he was due for regression in that sense of the word. Like he didn't regress to be a terrible quarterback, but he set a bar so high that he's falling down from it.
Yeah, no, he set the bar so high. He set a standard that he himself is going to have a hard time living up to.
Now, there's an interesting at 9:47. Herman Cruz says, "This is a question for you guys." He says, "Trade Purdy for Kirk." Interesting thought at the trade deadline, but would you do it if it was offered? Would you do it? Okay,
I would not.
Do you think that was Kirk auditioning for the Jets or the Falcons? Like, or I mean,
the Niners?
He's just trying to win the game.
Well, I mean, what's Kirk's situation? Free agent at the end of the year?
Yeah.
I could definitely see the Niners going after him if Purdy had a rough end to the year. But trading him today for Kirk?
No, but like if it seems like there was thoughts that the Jets might, unless Rodgers actually is coming back, which would be shocking, or like the Falcons may get interested because the Vikings aren't re-signing him at the end of the year. So like, wouldn't you want to get something out of the guy week before the trade?
I mean, there was a lot of talk that Kirk was going to be traded.
I think tonight's win for the Vikings throws a monkey wrench into some trade talks with them because now suddenly, I mean, they're not going to compete with the Lions. I just don't see it. They're what are they? 2-5? What's their record?
They're 3-3.
They were 2-4, so now they're 3-4.
3-4, and Detroit's 5-2. But if you're playing for a wild card, you just need 10 wins, 9 to 10 wins.
True.
I don't know. I mean, if they would have lost tonight and went 2-5, I think you would have had a house cleaning.
Would anybody really trade 23-year-old Brock Purdy, as good as he's been, for 35-year-old Kirk Cousins?
No.
I don't think so. But Shanahan's going, man, this is what I saw with Cousins. This is what Kirk can do. This was the best of Kirk, no doubt, but we've never seen him really win big games in the playoffs. So it's like, which is the real Kirk? Dabig25 says people blaming Purdy. He didn't give up 450 plus yards to a team without Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Purdy looked bad in the fourth quarter, but he looked great in the first three quarters. The Niner defense looked bad from the opening carry. I mean, halfback toss to Alexander Madison, and he goes for 18 yards on the first play of the game. I mean, they just did not do a very good job stopping the run. And it makes me wonder about, it's like, people love Hufanga and they love Gibson because they intercept more passes than Ward or Tart. But Ward and Tart were like extra linebackers on the field against the run. And now that they've gone to Gibson and Hufanga, if teams just dedicate themselves to running the football, those guys don't do anything against the run. I mean, Hufanga will make a great play, but then he'll fall off the next three tackles. Gibson will make a nice hit, but then he's really more of a center fielder, interceptor kind of a player. I don't know. I mean, I feel like they lost a lot of their physicality against the run when they let Azeez walk in free agency and then kind of switch the safeties from linebacker run hit guys to guys with ball skills who catch the ball in center field. They're more likely to get an interception with this duo, but they're also more likely to get run on with this duo. Big25 says Wilks turned a Ferrari defense into a Pinto. Man, it really sounds like people want to just roast Wilks. Lamb, your leader, says stop playing press man defense, Steve Wilks. Can't stop a screenplay. Ward is not a shutdown corner. The defensive line has been outplayed for 2 weeks now. It's hard to argue with any of that. Jesus Martinez, we need more offense. If we lose CMC, it's over for sure.
Now that I agree with. Like, if you got Debo banged up and CMC goes out, I mean, where are they in this game without CMC?
I know. I mean, I was shocked that CMC had all the touches.
It was.
And he looked good too. He looked good.
It was going to be a little bit of a victory lap for like the people that were like saying like that he should play in this game or whatever. But
biggest question after last week, it was Brock, Moody, and the pass rush, Steve Wilks. Biggest question after this week, Brock, the pass rush, Moody, and Wilks. All right. Well, it was putting a lot on Brock considering he had completed 85% going to the fourth.
Yeah.
DeBig says no pass rush exposes a weak secondary. I just think that you take out Greenlaw and Warner, I don't think the Niners' run defense is quite as good. I think their run defense looks better because Greenlaw and Warner are so spectacular. But now that they're piling up injuries and they're losing effectiveness, you see that they're doing it all themselves. It's not a group effort. It's Greenlaw and it's Warner. Jason McCabe says CMC fumble in the first changed everything. Wilks is junk.
Is it too crazy, too stupid, too low level thinking to just say like the Vikings came out and played this game like it was their Super Bowl because it was against the Niners on Monday Night Football and they needed a win, and the Niners just didn't really show up.
Match their intensity.
No, even Bosa's comments after the game, he was like, "Yeah, like I had opportunities and I just didn't get them." And it seems like I mean, this happens in the NFL. Like we all watch the NFL. Like what did we see this weekend? Like there was crazy shit happens. There's games where the Chiefs barely beat the Denver Broncos and Mahomes throws 2 picks. Like and then they turn around and then they beat the hell out of the Chargers. Like it just is the week to week NFL thing. I kind of think they just didn't really show up this week.
I think the Niners kind of got outcoached. Things kind of broke right for the Vikings and players were open. And like, I don't think that Kirk Cousins really had to make any really difficult throws. Like he made good throws. He played well. Don't get me wrong, but he didn't have to make incredibly difficult between windows throws. The guys are just open.
I'll say this, and this is, I probably should have said it last week, but I didn't. But it could come across as 2020 being hindsight. But I really think the Niners. I know they made the choice to come back home after the game against Cleveland, but the last few years they've always stayed
the Greenbrier
east, and usually done well in both games, especially the second game. And
you think the reason they didn't, Danny,
the extra
was
day.
Because it was a Monday.
Right.
Game.
They had the extra day. And I get that, but I still think the travel back home after a football game, you're just the physical game against Cleveland. You got to travel back. You're tired. You're sore. You get home, you just kind of beat. You get that extra day, but then you got to turn around 4 days later, 5 days later.
They're fatigued. Yeah,
I just think it has an effect. I really do on the body.
You may be right. I
think if they would have stayed in the Midwest, just stay, maybe practice in Youngstown or whatever one of their places they've done in the past.
I love the Greenbrier.
And just,
West Virginia, baby. West Virginia.
You bond.
Let me get. I hear what you're saying.
That. I think it plays.
I think it had an impact. Dazza says the regression in the D line is Bosa. Last year he was a game changer. This year he has 2.5 sacks in 7 games. Wow.
It's like yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, DeBiggs is Shanahan still not utilizing Mason, Ronnie Bell, or Braden Willis. Yeah, I mean, you got to use
Braden Willis. He's not even suiting up, is he?
I'm not sure. Was he active today? I'm not sure.
I don't know if he was.
DeBiggs says people blaming Purdy for this loss owned Lance or Garoppolo jerseys. Tech touchdowns and taps. Believe Purdy is going to win a ring this year or next. Oh, he's asking a question. Do we believe that Purdy's going to win a ring? I do think they can win a ring with Purdy. I don't think Purdy's the problem. I mean, not after watching what I've seen. What do you guys think? Do you think they can win a ring with Purdy or not?
Definitely.
The NFC is just not that tough. Like I truly believe, like, if you gave me one, I had to bet, like, put my life on a team to have the 1 seed. It would be the Detroit Lions. I think that's happening this year, and that's ridiculous. I just don't think the Eagles, like, anybody that's been watching the Eagles, they had a great game on Sunday, but they'll
be down.
They have a fucking brutal schedule too coming up.
Well, we'll see. They just got fired. Gizmo says, I don't want to hear about pressure rates anymore. The D-line just doesn't get to the quarterback. This defense was overrated, just hoping to win the division. Yeah, I seriously, I agree. Pressure rates, enough of pressure rates.
I'm done with Bosa being number 1 on PFF, but then I watched TJ Watt and Myles Garrett, like, literally steal wins from the opponents. Like,
Myles Garrett's been so much better than Bosa. It's not even funny. Eric from Megaton says, why keep 4 running backs when only one gets carries? Yeah, that's another question. It's like, Kyle, do you care if CMC is healthy at the end of the year? Doesn't seem like he does.
He was in every single snap of the game, right?
I know. It's amazing. Mel Out says, here's a super chat. Thank you, Mel. Tony or Orlana says Moody needs to make the field goals.
Okay. He made one.
He did make one. Not from 55. Niner Gold says trade for Taylor Swift. She's taking away our Super Bowl. All day, every day. Kim says Bricks, the NFL's. Oh, Brock is the NFL's Jeremy Lin. Oh, that's embarrassing.
That's mean.
Seriously, all day, every day. What? All day, every day, smoking grass. Roberto Davis says, how much are we paying Bosa and Hargrave? A lot. Mellow Out says people forget Brock hasn't even played a full season. He's still growing. Steve Young struggled his first season. He's the guy. Go Niners. Flav in the house says Purdy was playing well. Kyle needs to take out his tampon and throw it 40 times when the run game isn't doing much. Down 9 in the second half, and he's playing like he's trying to run out the clock. Throw the damn ball. What do you guys think about Flav's?
I kind of hear that. I low key hear that. I like it when they throw the ball, and the run game just wasn't working. It really.
And also, aggressive. What happened to, it was just all these. was just straight drop back pass. There was no rollouts tonight. There was very
bootleg
few
game, no bootleg. Maybe they want
that's
to
what I mean.
bootleg into.
Very
I think they were
few.
afraid of the blitzers off the edge because if you looked at the
Yeah.
numbers, Hicks and Pace and Metellus
Yeah.
had come on all these exotics, and I thought they felt like if they bootlegged into them, that maybe they would run into some huge negative plays.
But
I
you
will say
know-
this too: every time there was a chance, there was a couple times where they looked like they were going to get Cousins, and all of a sudden they're coming off the defensive right side, and he goes screen to the left.
That's the
And they
thing. that the
absolutely read it
Niners-
perfectly.
What I wanted to see more of the short passing game to, it was working. Throw the ball to Kittle, let him run. Throw the ball out to CMC in open space.
Yeah.
They stopped doing that, and they just started dropping straight back. And when they were dropping straight back, it was always the loft pass over a linebacker, and it was like it was there sometimes, but if you keep throwing it until they stop you, just keep doing it because it opens up the rest of the field because they're going to have to do something to stop that. You got those weapons like Kittle and even Ray, throw the ball out on those little, passes out to the flat and you got 2 or 3 blockers in front of you. It gets you 5 to 8 yards every time.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they stopped.
Lynch, pick up the phone and get Jalen Johnson from the Bears. Wouldn't mind having Jalen Johnson, Fresno kid. And Matthew Rowley says, I've had about enough of the goal line fumbles, CMC. Thank you, Matthew. Let's hear from the locker room sound before we wrap this up. I want to get some locker room sound in here. I'm going to share the screen. This is CMC in the locker room after the game. And tell me what you guys think of this comment. This is
bad mistake.
Here we go.
Anytime you lose, it's a bad feeling. I think we have a team that's hypercritical of each individual, and we can't just let it trickle down. And we got to take a good hard look in the mirror. I know I'll do that. I made a bad mistake today that I believe cost us the game if I don't fumble that ball, and so I'm put it on me and go from there. Lost the ball. Yeah, I'll always try to fight, but
there you go.
Anytime you lose.
I love the accountability of CMC, but what do you guys think? I mean,
He looks really mad.
He looks mad.
He's
I love the follow-up question. What happened on the fumble? I lost the ball, asshole. What do you think what happened?
Yeah.
I mean, some of these questions, it's like, seriously. I don't want to be critical of my media brethren, but some of these questions are
I know,
so
Larry. It's unbelievable.
stupid.
It's unbelievable.
There was a guy the other day who was like, what happened on the fumbled snap? What happened on the fumbled snap is it was a fucking fumbled snap. I mean, seriously, what happened on the fumbled snap? I mean, come on.
They asked these questions the other night. I was listening
What
to
kind
something.
of a question is that?
Julio Jones, they asked him the other night, well, do you think you still have it? I just want one guy to say, no, I don't have it at all. I'm just out here for my paycheck.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm done. I got nothing.
Have it. Jeez.
Oh, man. You know what? I love that from CMC, though. He's such a dog. I mean, he really is like, he is a quarterback out there basically at running back. And that just, I could see that during the game. At times I actually was worried that it might have been injury related, but he was pissed. He just had that pissed, angry face. Like even like in the backfield, like it was. Yeah.
Here's Fred. Let's hear from Fred. Fred, in a lot of ways, is the spokesman of the team. Here he is talking about how the Niners need to win games like this.
Obviously, people are going to be like, oh, why are we going to blitz in that situation? But you look at it, Mooney had an interception. Their player happened to make a great play and goes in there and scores. I wouldn't say – of course, you don't want that to happen, but you got to overcome adversity. I think the thing right now with us is we got to find ways to win the grimy games, the ones that it's not looking great, and find a way. Obviously we can win 30 to 10, but who are we and what are we going to do when we're down and we got to come back and win a game? We've shown obviously what we're capable of, like our best version of ourselves. But at the end of the day, I want us to be, I want our mental toughness to go up. I want to win in any form or fashion. Like, I don't care if it's ugly. Like, all right, we'll figure it out later on, but like, let's find a way to get this done. You know, yeah, it's back to the drawing board. Obviously, we got a big game coming up against the Bengals at home. It's a must win.
What do you guys think of
Must
that?
win.
What do you think of that as
Why
far
is he acting like they needed the pick going into the half?
No,
I
he
know.
was saying
it's all that whole play is about risk versus reward. Why would you risk that much? What was the potential reward? I mean, they acted hyper aggressive on that call compared to
what down was that?
the situation.
What down was that?
Right
Was it
before the
second?
half, it was 3rd and 6 from the Vikings' own 40-yard line. Cousins drops back to pass. The Niners bring 6. They had actually 7 in the backfield. So I don't know why 7 were in the backfield, but it was a 6-man pressure, you know, and the number of plays that Wilks dials up a 6-man pressure is super limited. And then in that situation, there couldn't have been more than 30 seconds left in the half.
It was like 40,
and they're 3rd and
still.
6. Why, even if they convert there, you don't you want to keep them to a field goal? Instead, you go for broke. It just seemed like an odd time to really dial up the 6-man pressure.
I know you always go for the INT, but in hindsight, it might have been better just for Ward just to bat it down, because it would have been 4th down and end of drive. But maybe he was thinking pick 6 because he had the angle, and
let's hear from Brock too as well. Here's Brock in the locker room after the game.
Yeah, it was just a bad ball. JJ did a good job on his route, and D-line got a good push on us, and I sort of just was trying to anticipate the throw. At the end of the day, it was a bad ball, and obviously I threw it too far ahead of him. So, yeah.
When you're getting pressured like that, are you throwing to a spot because you're expecting the quarterback and the receiver to be in that spot?
Yeah, there's times where you get a push, but there's a timing of the play. There's a timing of routes and where guys are supposed to be and whatnot. That play, JJ he did his job. He ran the right route, the right timing, and everything. I just got pushed and sort of lost sight of him and just anticipated it too much far ahead of him. So, yeah, that's just how it was. He did a good job. Yeah, 34 seconds left, sort of, trying to strain and make a play. That was like the shot within the play to hit Ray coming across the middle, and then that middle safety Tampa player, he did a good job. I was trying to throw it over him, trying to force it. Got to learn from it, and I think I could have ran and got down and whatever, but I just forced it. So.
So he could have run.
Yeah. Was that you, Danny, that asked that question before?
Yeah. I thought he had the right side wide open where he could have got 10 yards, got out of bounds, stopped the clock. And I think,
learning experience.
Put the ball at the 30-yard line with 26, 25 seconds and live to play another, see another play, taking that risk. But like he said,
it's 34 seconds. He's trying to make a play there.
He's gotta learn,
if you go look at it too, Bynum made a great effort there. That was a great effort by Bynum. But I never like when you're moving to your right and you're crossing the field, because the defenders have a wide open look at every aspect of that ball, your release, the patterns in front of them. They're all facing you. And he, Bynum made a nice play. Bynum is a hell of a player, by the way, for them, the former Cal Bear. Bay Area Baller joins us here. We're finishing up, Baller, but, Baller, we were going to invite you, but you were busy tonight, right?
A Monday nights, I always have a show with my boys from straight out of the Bay. So I didn't, as much as I love you, Krueg, I've had this Monday show for years, so I couldn't let those guys down.
Well, I just was feeling bad because I'm like, wait a second. I didn't invite Baller because I thought you were going to join us.
I sent the link.
Oh,
you know what? I got the last minute itch because after this loss, I had to talk to my boys over here. I wanted to hear your thoughts. But hey, that last play on the Purdy interception, I thought it was a terrible route combination. From what I saw, it looked like it was 4 verts with just Ray coming across, and it was just completely locked up. So I put that pick more on Shanahan and just kind of a bad play design as opposed to Purdy. You know, he was trying to force something. I mean, time's ticking. He had to make a play. So I'm putting that one on Shanahan. But fellas, I want to talk about the most egregious, atrocious defensive play call that I've ever seen, because that play before halftime, it's third and 6. There's 16 seconds left in the game. You got to be playing some kind of soft coverage. You cannot be blitzing 7. There was 8 guys across the line. You would have thought it was 4th and 1, but no. He left these guys one-on-one on an island. And I know Mooney, he was in a really good position, almost had the pick, but you can't put your defense in that situation with 16 seconds left in the game. I thought that was an atrocious, disgusting play call by Steve Wilks. And Steve Wilks might as well call Kevin O'Connell daddy after this performance tonight, because the defense, the zone defense was getting carved up all night. There were holes in it. And I got to give kudos to O'Connell because he was scheming it up. I thought their route concepts, put these Niners zone defenders in a tough spot. Like, look at the first one to Jordan Addison. He's running an over route, and it's Dre Greenlaw, with his back turned, trying to keep up with them. Like, I thought it was tough. And then I tweeted, hey, Steve Wilks, we got to switch from zone to man. And you know what? He actually did that. But what did the Vikings do? They went to a bunch formation and got free releases, and they were carving up the man coverage. The defensive backs, Mooney, Ward, multiple flags. I thought he could have had a third one that the ref kept the flag in his pocket. Demo Lenore had a PI that put the ball at the 1-yard line. Isaiah Oliver's grabbing onto Addison while he's breaking. I mean, fellas, this loss, in my opinion, is on the defense. And then offensively, I thought Brock Purdy was actually really good with the exception of like 3 plays. Obviously, the 2 interceptions, the sack he took, he tried to spin out the back door and roll left. And that was not the right move. If he would have stepped up in the pocket, he would have saw Kittle coming open on a post route. But it was like, other than those 3 mistakes, man, I thought Brock was really good, hitting all kinds of throws, out routes, dig routes, seam routes. But, it was the 3 plays that were negative were hard to overcome. But really, the McCaffrey fumble initially after the Niners took over the ball after that Mooney Ward interception, man, I believe in the butterfly effect. Like, it felt like the Niners were going to punch that ball in until McCaffrey coughs it up.
Yeah, it was definitely a turning point. Hey, speaking of real quick, that play when they got down to the goal line after the pass interference on Lenore, how about the goal line play with Warner coming flying over the top? And they actually stopped him and made him get a field goal on that drive. But I've never seen a player just lay it out like that. I mean, Fred Warner.
Well, you're going to see it more. You're going to see it more because the Eagles feature that, and all these defensive players and coaches are looking at that tush push and how to stop it. And really, there isn't any way to stop it if every guy's going to get low. The only way you can stop it is at the snap, dive over, time your hit, and get a smack on the quarterback before he gets horizontal. And I think that's probably going to be I don't know, I don't know what the answer to that tush push is, because I'll say this: the Eagles did it on the 25-yard line last night against the Dolphins, and it worked. And if you're doing it on your own 25 in the fourth quarter, they play football in a different way because they have 4 downs instead of 3 to get it done, because they feel like, hey, you know what? We'll just as long as we get within 2.5 yards on 4th down, we're going to go for it. And they're getting it. And they're getting it behind Kelsey and Dickerson and with Hurts pushing. So Hurts has got tremendous
Let me just say
legs.
one last thing. I got to jump because I got a bunch of stuff I got to do and get to bed. But last stream, I was the kind of the Purdy hater. This stream, I'll be the Purdy defender. I really think he actually played a good game outside of maybe 3 throws. He had 2 really bad throws that ended up in interceptions. But, I mean, if you look at just his completion percentage going into the third quarter, it was like 80-something%. And I don't know. I thought he played well. I think he'll progress, get better. I don't think the season's over, as some people in the comments are saying. But I'm gonna jump.
All right,
Good
Kev.
talking to you guys.
Have a good night. There you go, Kev, checking out from Cal Poly. We welcome in Damon Bruce. We got Bay Area Baller in the house, Dan Coach Emilio, the great Ryan Smith. Damon, good to see you. What would you say, Damon, if I say the primary reason the 49ers lost? Do you go start your conversation on Brock, on Kyle, on Wilks, on the Niner D-line, the Niner secondary, McCaffrey's fumble? Where would you start the criticism? Where do you believe the criticism should start?
Players. They didn't get out coached, not for a minute tonight. They didn't get out. They just got their asses kicked. They got beat at the line of scrimmage, and this defensive line, this much ballyhooed defensive line, isn't even coming close to living up to their own reputation. We haven't used Drake Jackson's name since week 1. Eric Armstead, I don't even know if he caught the flight to Minneapolis. Was he in Minnesota? I didn't see him. I didn't hear his name. Nick Bosa has done more underwear commercials than he's put pressure on quarterbacks. He's now doing Kim Kardashian underwear commercials. That might be the big problem that's going on here, because everything those women touched, like they ruined men. They killed Kanye's career. So I'm worried about Nick Bosa now because he's doing Kim Kardashian underwear commercials. This was about
Didn't help Tristan Thompson much either, by the way, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Reggie Bush. It all goes bad. It all goes bad. Ben Simmons, exactly.
Who was that guy Humphreys? Remember that guy Humphreys? Who was,
that guy. These women are poison. I'm telling you, they really are.
That is true.
It's the canyon of death.
Right. Look at what they did to Bruce Jenner.
Guy was an Olympian. He was an Olympian.
Anything wrong with that? Anyways, look, Dan, I haven't seen a guy leap over a line of scrimmage to make a play on a quarterback like that since the wide-eyed Mike Singletary days in 1985 Chicago. That was an awesome play by Fred Warner, who, even though he had all those tackles, Fred Warner had a bad game tonight. He's missing tackles all over. This 49ers defense has played back-to-back bad, disappointing games. It's easy to say Steve Wilks is the culprit. It's easy to say that he's playing too much soft coverage. You can do whatever you want defensively when you got a defensive line that's getting the job done. The 49ers defensive line hasn't even come close to getting a job done, hasn't even come close to a quarterback, to be honest with you, in the last 2 weeks of football, and these have been losses. Having said all of that, I agree with Bay Area Baller. I agree with the point that Kevin made. But for a couple of interceptions when you're trying to win a game, which, we're making excuses, I guess, a little bit. But I thought that Purdy played pretty well. He got 2 balls that got away from him when he needed nothing to get away from him. He needed the end zone. That didn't happen. This could have been a lot worse than it actually was. The Vikings spent the entire game keeping the Niners in it more than the Niners kept themselves in this game, settling for field goals when I thought they should have been more aggressive on 4th down. There were several chances to step on the 49ers' neck. The Vikings took none of them. I thought it was a kiss from the football gods that they were only down 10 at one point. The 49ers had 0 points at the 2-minute warning. 0 points at the 2-minute warning. I mean, that's just, they're out of rhythm. This has been a bad road trip. They got a problem coming up with Cincinnati. They could be 5-3 when it's all said and done going into the bye week, and that's not good. But everyone who wants to, throw clown and trash can emojis around has no idea how football works, how long a season is, or what is exactly going on here. As bad as the last 2 weeks are, as uncloaked in glory as these last 2 defeats have been, the 49ers have been driving for a go-ahead score in their final possession of 2 games that they have lost by a grand total of 7 points. Look around the league. It ain't easy. The team
those are all good. Good points. All good. I mean, I think I agree with almost all those points. I would say the one part about this that kind of makes it a little bit different than, let's say, if it happened 3 weeks ago or 5 weeks from now, is that today is October the 23rd, and the 31st is the trade deadline. And the Eagles did today pick up Kevin Byard, who's a all-pro safety. And you saw John Lynch circling the field in the pregame with the Vikings general manager. if you're John Lynch, the one thing that's really clear from being around the facility, getting a chance to, kind of see them operate, is the Niners really believe this is their maybe best chance with this current group to get a Super Bowl, because they've got the quarterback on the rookie deal, because they've got so much talent. And I do think they are going to try to do whatever they can to add to this mix before next Tuesday.
Is Burns now? I mean, do you think that they're looking at this?
What exactly do you think they need? Because it's not like it's readily apparent, right? Like, they have a lot of pass rush, but they're not getting it done. They have, suitable corners, but their coverage was soft. They have, a Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. They've got an array of star weapons, but as Danny points out, they don't really have that dynamic mover. Some people would say they need offensive line help, but I'll say this, you know what? The one guy we're not talking at all about is Jalen Moore. Jalen Moore played a pretty sound game. So if you were John Lynch, let's go around the room here, because Damon and Baller just jumped in. Danny and Rye have already kind of asked this question too. But if you were Lynch and you were trying to parlay some draft choices, I mean, Byard went today. He's an all-pro player. He went for a fifth and a sixth and Terrell Edmonds. So it's a buyer's market, and the price tag on these guys is very doable, it seems like, when you're trading veterans for picks.
DN corner.
If you could add a piece, what piece, what position, what player do you want?
I would go DN or corner. I think they got to be looking at both of those positions. I got to tell you, I'm a little less worried about Jake Moody than maybe I should be. Maybe that's wishful thinking. I'm glad that he hit that 55-yarder. He needed that. You can't be in your head and hit 55-yard field goals. So, I thought that was a moment that he needed. Robbie Gould is obviously a luxury that if you do add, you're basically, killing that kid's career in the 49ers uniform instantly. So I don't think they're going to do that. I would go D end or corner. Surtain, Burns out of Carolina. I mean, go get yourself a real player, because you're probably a real player away from being a real contender, and that's been a little bit exposed in the last 2 weeks. I'd be looking more defense than offensive help. This is not going to be Devontae Adams. That's not happening. D end or corner is where I would start shopping if I'm John Lynch, and I bet you that's what he's doing in the next 10 days. Or not
Baller,
even 10 days.
What do you think, Baller? Is there somebody you want out there in the trade market?
I'm going to piggyback off of Bruce. I'm looking for blue chip studs. Okay. The first call I'm making, I'm glad you were saying Lynch was walking the circle with the Vikings GM, because I want Danielle Hunter. He's at the top of the list.
Yep,
Montez Sweat. Can you pry him away from the Commanders? Brian Burns. Yeah, I want a stud. Okay. Patrick Surtain, he probably tops the list, because this secondary I thought sucked today. But So Surtain, he tops the list. I don't think you can get him. Jalen Johnson, we saw the pick six he had. It's been rumored that the Niners have called about Jalen. But Jerry Jeudy, I'm a Jerry Jeudy guy. I liked him coming out of Alabama. I think there's better days ahead for Jeudy. But the name I really want to throw out, the Titans are obviously in sell mode, okay? And what about this running game today? How'd the run game look? Not very good. McCaffrey, 3 yards a carry. I put out earlier today, there was 3 players on the Titans I would have interest in. I put out Azeez Al-Shaair because I think he's a little better than Oren Burks. And, if Greenlaw's he's acting up, he's some insurance. I like Azeez if they're going to give him away. But I mentioned Derrick Henry on Twitter, and I was surprised at the pushback I got. Oh, we don't need him. We got McCaffrey. If the Titans are willing to offload Derrick Henry, eat some of the financial cost, and it's only going to cost a 4th-round pick, sign me up.
I will say this, though. The one thing that's really disturbing that we haven't touched on at all, there is no room to run for any of the Niner backs between the tackles, especially in the middle of the, in the guard center area. Brendel doesn't get very much push. They're not opening holes in the middle at all. So I wonder how effective any running back would be. I kind of like if it was up to me, I agree with Damon too. Jalen Johnson and Montez Sweat. I think Montez Sweat on this team would be monster, and I think Jalen Johnson is a terrific young corner and he had a pick 6 yesterday. He's tenacious. He's got some swagger. And then you could take Oliver and, put Lenore in the slot and go with Mooney and Lenore and Jalen Johnson and let Oliver play off the bench.
Jalen Johnson just had a 2-interception game. Not that the Bears think their season's about to turn around, but word in Chicago is they're working on an extension with him. They want to just take his name off the board. And if I'm the Bears, I'm not trading him.
Well, Sean Murphy Bunting in Tennessee would be a good one. I threw out earlier today that I like the idea of Aziz, Arden Key, and Sean Murphy Bunting from Tennessee, just from the standpoint of, look at the Niner run D and look at how as it's regressed as Greenlaw and Warner have gotten nicked up. And I just think that they badly could use one more awesome run defender. And maybe it's a lineman, but it's probably more like a linebacker. If they were, and I don't even know that they'd be willing to move Aziz, but they just signed him. But if you could get Al-Shaair, Murphy Bunting is a 26-year-old corner who's got good experience. And Arden Key was a significant player. I'd offer a day 2 pick for if I could get that trio of players, because I really kind of at the end of the day, guys, don't think one guy's going to get it done. I think if the Niners are really going to run with the Eagles, one thing that this week really showed, the Eagles have a lot more momentum. They just added Byard. They just smoked the Dolphins. They're playing well. They're getting better. I think it's going to – I don't know that one player – even if you got Surtain, I don't know that one player vaults the Niners over the Eagles. But if you could add a couple of players, maybe that might be a difference maker.
Well, you got to win at the line of scrimmage. Just straight up. You're not going to win. Yep. You're not going to beat the Eagles unless you're winning at the line of scrimmage. And the Niners are not winning on either side of the line of scrimmage right now.
I think they would do well, like Damon said, defensive line, whether it's Sweat or – Chase Young or Burns or Hunter, any one of those 4 guys would be an upgrade. But here's the thing. I mentioned this on offense, that I would think, like, what is Andy Reid going to do? What does he do?
He's going to try to add a receiver, I think.
He's going to try and add someone like a Marquise Brown at Arizona. And I would trade even as high as a 3rd round pick, because the Niners stack up so many picks. Go get me Marquise Brown, that scat little guy, slot guy that gets open, that can get deep, that is a gadget, that is got speed, that can run all over the field and opens it up for other guys. They never get any of those type of players. Kansas City.
What about Danny Gray?
They don't play him.
Oh, he's been hurt all year.
He's
yeah.
Hurt. But they don't.
I mean, if I felt confident in Danny Gray coming back and producing, I'd be like, yeah, they got Danny Gray. But I'm kind of tired of saying, hey, they got Danny Gray, because Danny Gray doesn't play.
He's a rumor.
I just want to see
a rumor. I don't even know if he's an actual person.
Yeah, he's
like
good in
Bigfoot.
Madden. He's great in Madden.
Go get that guy. Go get that guy, because the Niners, that's the one thing I think they really lack, is that explosiveness, the guy that can stretch the field, can get open, it's got speed, and they just don't have it. And I
like Rondale Moore, but I mean Hollywood Brown is, and I don't know if Arizona would deal with the Niners. Maybe they just wouldn't even consider dealing with the Niners.
I think they would. They're years away.
They should, but I don't know if they will.
I mean, guys, honestly, at times I do feel like a little bit like the Niners, like just fan base and discourse is like, they want the Niners to be, and we want the Niners to be like the Warriors with KD, like so unstoppable with all the best players in the league and the most undoubtedly stacked team in the league that then is just going to cruise to win a Super Bowl. Like, it doesn't work that way. The Niners, as of right now, are the most talented team in the league. They're the most talented.
You think
team
so?
You
think they're more talented than Philly?
100%. 100%.
I don't know about that.
So
I don't know. Philly's better on the D line. Philly's better on the O line. Philly's got really good offensive weapons. They just added Byard to their secondary. I think the Niners linebackers are better, and some of the weapons might be a little better, but I don't know, Ryan. I think I mean,
A.J.
they're
Brown
both
is a difference maker.
Yeah, I would say Philly might have them slightly right now, but I do think that I do know what you're saying.
Yeah,
There is
it's
this
a
like
it's a matter of
expectation that they're going to
yeah.
get.
Let
an
me ask
all-star
you guys this
Well,
because
Dan, I was going to say, I don't think they should go out and just try and, in my opinion, it's like, look at the positions where if you lose that guy, is the season over? If you lost Mooney Ward, the season might be over. Like, I don't think that so in my opinion, they should go out and get another cornerback.
Yeah.
definitely need another corner. But what about
I agree with you also, Dan. Like, you see it with Debo out and just McCaffrey. Like, look, it's still good, but I want somebody else there for depth. Somebody in the chat threw out Antonio Gibson. That's actually an interesting one. I mean, it's inner NFC, but the kind of guy that
he can be a runner and a receiver.
And just takes a little load off Debo, takes a little load off McCaffrey, and also I think that kind of player is absolutely necessary for this team. I also want another tight end.
Is Zach Moss available now? Is Zach Moss going to be available?
Zach Moss could be available as a running back, no question. The one thing the Eagles.
I got to interject here.
Yeah.
The answer to the 49ers problems are sitting in their locker room right now.
True.
The players on this team need to be better than they have been the last 2 weeks. They haven't been out-coached. They're not getting out-talented. They're getting out-played. And that's on the guys in the uniform. I know it's very fashionable to blame Steve Wilks for all that's gone wrong because he's the new guy in the room, so the difference must be his. The difference is this defensive line went from dominating to overrated like that. Now, can they pick up and be dominating once again? Yeah, they have that talent, but they got to start making plays, man. I mean, it's dude.
Is it a syndrome where they got paid and maybe they're a little lax now?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but
they lost Aziz, and Aziz was a major tackler, and they don't have that kind of player. They also lost Jimmy Ward. They replaced him with Isaiah Oliver. I don't think that's an upgrade. I think that's a clear downgrade because Isaiah Oliver, he's not what you want as a cover man or as a run defender. And then they went with these safeties that are more like ball skill safeties, but they lost Tart and Ward, so they lost some of their kind of linebacker hitter types. They're not as physical defense as they were a year ago. That's for sure. They should on paper. They also got rid of their depth for Hargrave. Everybody loves Hargrave, and Hargrave's got big name, and he's got a lot of pressures. But let's be honest, they signed Hargrave and they waved goodbye to Menahue, Willis, and Ebukam, and those guys played 91 snaps in the playoff games on average. And they replaced those three guys with Cleveland Farrell, Kerry Hyder, Austin Bryant, and I see clear regression there. So I don't know. I mean, I agree basically with your premise, Damon, that it's on the players, not the coaches. But I do think that they could improve their I think they know they need to improve their talent base. And I think they do need to be a little bit more dynamic. I kind of agree with Danny as far as, look at the Niner receivers. Danny Gray has not played. Ronnie Bell doesn't get on the field, and Juwan Jennings is not speed. He's a run through you. Kittle is not really speed. He's a physical guy. Ayuk is their speed, and he's not really a burner. Debo runs through you. So they don't really have that one weapon that's like really dangerous in open spaces and creates space. I do think if they could add some player, it doesn't have to be a star.
I think Judy can be that
really
guy.
move.
I think Judy could be that guy. But I got to jump in because Bruce, I've been listening to you for 10 years, but I mean, Steve Wilks, I got to pick your brain about this 3rd and 6 call before half. There's 16 seconds left in the game. I thought that was a disgustingly atrocious call. I mean, are you guys with me? Why the hell would you blitz?
It was
7?
not smart.
He's crowding the line of scrimmage like it's a 4th and 1. No, there's 16 seconds left in the half.
And they have no timeouts.
Something soft. We don't need to leave everyone one-on-one.
Yeah, that was a risk without reward there. I didn't get that. And I will be asking Wilks that question when he hits the podium later this week, because that question has to be asked. It's like you acted like if they had gotten a first down there, you were going to lose the Super Bowl. And in reality, you brought a 7-man pressure, left everybody in man-to-man, and gave up a touchdown, and then wind up losing.
But look, Ward,
Ward almost picked it off.
If Ward makes a tackle and doesn't fall down, spinning himself around, trying to rip a ball out of the guy's hands, who he won the same battle earlier in the game, ripping a ball out of the guy's hands.
It was kind of appropriate that he had it ripped out of his hands because it was payback.
Yeah, turnabout was fair play. But look, Steve Wilks, okay, that one play, sure. You can talk about that one play.
That has to be second-guessed.
It's also a play that was this close away from being an interception. I mean, it really was. I didn't like it. It's not good. Aware of down and distance and game situation. All those questions are legitimate. I did not think that the Niners lost tonight because they got outcoached. I think it's because they got outplayed.
What about the motivational factor? Because maybe this is just a goofy sort of like my fan brain talking, but just the fact that like D'Amico and even Saleh, I'd say to a lesser extent, but those guys being on the sideline, it seemed like they were like almost like part of the defense and they kept the boys fired up. Just Wilks, he's up in a booth. The defense now maybe it's just they got the hell beat out of them versus the Browns and they came out, and laid an egg. Maybe it's just as simple as that. But do you think there's anything to that sort of motivational factor?
I would certainly hope not. If you need a cheerleader to play good, you're in the wrong league. Like know your job, get your job done. I mean, that's it. I don't think like a lot of hand clapping works or anything like that. Some emotion is really nice, but no, I mean, to me, tackle better. Steve Wilks' defense will play a lot better when he's getting pressure on. By the way, I would be a genius defensive coordinator if you saw my 4 down defensive linemen getting pressure every single game. That hasn't happened the last 2 games. It hasn't. And by the way, gave up a lot of yards. Yards don't lose games. I mean, Steve Wilks' defense tonight in defeat only gave up 22 points. Like, that's usually enough to win when you're the 49ers. I'm not defending Steve Wilks. He did not have a great game. He's not having a great season, but neither is his defensive line, and everything that this team is built to do starts with that defensive line kicking ass in every game they play. They haven't kicked much ass at all, full stop. Outside of week 1 in Pittsburgh, they haven't taken a game over. They haven't. And that's why this has been less than glorious. And having said all that, everyone is so panicked. Everyone's, this team, it's lost its identity. The team has lost its identity. They're done. They're done. They're done now. The trash can, the clown emoji. I don't know how to actually form real sentences to talk about football, so I'm just going to hit clown emoji 6 times and put Steve Wilks' name next to it. They're 5-2. There are only 2 teams in this league with a better record than the 49ers. That's it.
They have the best point differential in the entire NFL to this minute.
That's pretty good. Like, here's the thing. They've played 2 bad games. They're not a bad team. They've had 2 bad weeks. They're not a bad team. No. They just got outplayed.
Let me read Philadelphia's upcoming schedule also, because this makes me feel good. So they've got at Washington, who actually does tend to give them some fits, but that's going to be a win. But then they go home Dallas, road Kansas City, home Buffalo, home Niners, at Dallas, at Seattle. That's at least tough. That's tough. That's about as tough as it gets. Absolutely.
Dude, the 49ers, Seattle, Philly, Seattle. You can't find a more brutal schedule than that for them too. I mean, it gets. Here's the thing. We need to stop saying, well, the Miami Dolphins, they haven't beaten anybody. And the Miami Dolphins, they go into Philadelphia and they lose. They're a fraud. Dude, bad football teams beat good football teams all the time in this. There are no easy games. Just because you think this game's going to be easy doesn't mean it's about to be easy. This is a league that is devoid of easy afternoons and evenings. They do not exist. People stop having to talk about like, well, the Jets are about to have a bad decade and you don't even have to worry about them for 10 years. It's not how. Remember how bad the Patriots looked for all those weeks in a row? And Bill Belichick forgot how to coach. Mac Jones is a total bust. And it's time Robert Kraft fire his fucking Hall of Fame coach. And then all of a sudden, they're beating the Bills, who are supposed to be great and have underachieved every single time I've looked up this year. You know what the Bills got coming up? 10 more games. Now's not the time to be making the final evaluation on anybody. We're not even halfway through the year.
I don't think anybody's making final evaluations.
Oh,
I will say
your
this, though.
chat room right now is full of absolute overreacting.
Well, that's just the nature. That's just the,
again. But
come on, man. That's the nature of the beast. I don't, the same way. Nothing against them because I love them. I love each and every one of them. But I don't put that much credence into the emotional discourse in the post game. We've done post game long enough, the two of us, to know that there's a lot of things that are said in the post game that cooler heads prevail.
Has anyone brought up this point? Has anyone brought up this point? Has any single 49er fan said this out loud tonight? Kirk Cousins was awesome.
Yeah, well, that's what I started the show with.
Kirk Cousins played the best game of his entire life tonight.
Yeah.
Fact.
But here's the one thing that is alarming, and it bothers me. The 49ers used to pride themselves with the fact that they can get home on immobile quarterbacks by just rushing 4. Not only did they not get home with rushing 4, they couldn't get home when they went blitz crazy. And it wasn't 5-man pressures. It was 6 and 7-man pressures, and they still couldn't get home. That, I think, is probably the most discouraging part. Now, other people will blame Purdy for the picks, and clearly he made 2 bad decisions there. But I looked at his night, and I thought he was spectacular until the fourth quarter. And, yeah, I mean, he had those 2 bad plays that derailed their last 2 drives. But, there are people that are, speaking in definitive terms, he's not it. It's like, dude, he completed 84% going to the fourth quarter. And we've seen, and the guy's like 12-2 or whatever. So there's people that are going to be overreacting in all different directions. What you have to kind of decide is what is just something that happened in this game and what's like a consistent theme. And one of the things that I think is really a consistent theme that I'm starting to see is that Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner are spectacular against the run. And when those guys don't make play after play after play after play after play against the run, this run D doesn't look all that great. Now, you did take out, you did inject Javon Hargrave into the mix. Hargrave's a great pass rusher. He's not known as a great run defender. And you did take Azeez out of the mix, and you did kind of convert your Jimmy Ward, Tart safeties into ball skill safeties. And I just think the combination of those 3 or 4 moves has made them I think the fact that Greenlaw and Warner are so spectacular in the first part of the year has camouflaged their problems on run as a run defense. And that, to me, if you said, what's their big concern? I'm not as concerned about the pass rush. I'm more concerned about, do they have enough corners, and is their run D good enough? And I would say the answer is no to both. I don't think they have good enough corners, and I don't think their run D is good enough. That's where my concerns are. I'm not as concerned about Bosa. I'm not as concerned about the pass rush. I'm not as concerned about Wilks, who's a proven entity. I'm not as concerned about the Niner receivers. I'm more concerned about their run D and the quality of their cornerback play. So, but everybody's different. And if you want to say you're super concerned about Brock Purdy, fine. That's fine with me. You can have that take. I mean, we all see it differently. But that's my main concerns are, I wonder, is this run D good enough, or was just Greenlaw and Warner just awesome in the first part of the year, and now they're just okay because they're banged up, and you're seeing the frailties of their run D. And then I don't like, and I have not liked, Isaiah Oliver. I thought it was a horrendous decision to cut Deshaun Jameson at the end of camp. I think they didn't go with their best corners out of camp. And maybe they have help there with Luter and Womack coming, but I don't know, man. I'm a little concerned about their reliance on, think about it this way. Mooney always goes down with some kind of a groin injury. He's their number 1 corner. He was getting roasted. So if they lose any combination of Lenore or Looney or Mooney Ward, I should say, for any period of time, I don't think they're going to stand up in pass defense. So that's my primary concern. Their run D in those corners.
What are your guys' worries on Bruce, or on Nick Bosa? I truly believe like he has to have 2 sacks versus the Bengals. Joe Burrow gets hit a zillion times during the game.
I think Damon nailed it. It's the Kardashian effect.
Well, I there's something to it because I have to agree with Damon as far as like players like have to show up because everybody's going to have off games, but the superstars always have to show up. I think before you guys got here, I was talking about the Browns. Like clearly both the Niners and the Browns were kind of feeling the effects of that super physical game. The Browns let up 38 points to Gardner Minshew and the Colts, but Myles Garrett was still showing up and making crazy plays, game-altering plays, blocking kicks, forcing fumbles, getting sacks, and we just didn't see that with
best
Bosa.
games any defender has had in a decade. He was incredible. Myles Garrett was
incredible.
He's
and
the
rest of
defensive player of the year in
the
the league.
100%.
I mean, he really is.
Hey, you know,
I think they need to start moving Bosa around more because we know he lines up on the left side of the of the defensive formation predominantly, like rushing against the right tackle. And I think teams are game planning for it. I know Hawkinson, he had a big game tonight, which Hawkinson, I thought he outplayed Fred Warner a couple times. They were matched up, kind of one-on-one. I thought Hawkinson got the better of him. But even sometimes they'd have Hawkinson chip on Bosa before he gets out into his route. I'm wondering if kind of flipping him, making him more versatile, not using him kind of isolated against the right tackle, if that could have some kind of positive effect. Maybe he'll get less. Because teams – they're chipping backs. They're chipping tight ends. I think that's the main reason why his sack numbers are down. But that's not an excuse because, like you said, these other premium pass rushers, T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, they're getting the same kind of attention.
Yeah, T.J. Watt, like you watch that Ravens game. All of these games with T.J. Watt, he's 2-3 sacks, and he's like, he's scoring touchdowns. Like it's insane. Him and Garrett, and I believe Bosa is on that level. So.
Well, you brought up a point earlier, Baller, about McConnell and how he just kind of picked apart the Niners.
O'Connell, you're talking about?
I mean, O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell. Yeah. One thing that concerns me watching the game, the Niners did not seem to put together long drives. And I mentioned it earlier, when Kyle would throw the ball out to either Kittle or Ayuk or CMC, the play was effective every time tonight. Every time, when not inside the tackles, but outside the numbers, he would throw the ball or run it outside. It was working. And the one thing that I know, Bill Walsh, I still remember the drive in '81. Linville Elliott just kept running him around off the tackle, just kept getting 7-8 yards, and that one drive with the catch. Why does Kyle not stick with something that's working? He tends to try and set up plays for future. Just, hey, if it's working, giving you 6 or 7 yards, keep doing it until they stop you. And that creates long drives, and then it opens up other plays. I don't see why he does. I have yet to see Kyle do that. He does it in the run game when the run game's working. He'll just keep running, which is great. But
which it was not tonight.
The run game was not working tonight.
And I saw a lot of 8-man fronts.
Yes, that's why you go outside, because they're all stacked inside. They're stacked inside the hash marks. Throw it outside the numbers and let your playmakers run. Every time they did it tonight, you look, they got 5+ yards. Why not keep doing it? Just mow down the field until they decide to stop you. I don't understand it. That's the one thing I love. Kyle, his calling. He's, at the top of the league, but he doesn't seem to just take what the defense gives you sometimes. And he kept dropping back to pass, and Minnesota was getting pressure, and they were having to hurry. That play was open all night.
Again, there were 5 weeks of scoring 35 points or more. None of this came up, right? None of this came up because the team was just playing better. This is executing better. They'd spent the last 2 weeks not executing. Very disappointing, all things considered, against Minnesota. Cleveland, that's a much better defense than Minnesota had tonight. They couldn't get off the field on third down. mean, the 49ers
Yeah, that was
lost-
really it. That was it right there.
49ers lost this game, not getting off the field on third down, almost not never. And honestly, the 2 times where they had success on third down, the Vikings should have gone for it on fourth, but they chose to not do that. There was another time where they punted on fourth down. I thought it was a clear go for it moment. And O'Connell, who's normally aggressive, was conservative in those moments tonight. Like, I got a buddy of mine who's a huge Vikings fan. We're texting during the game, and I said, look, if the 49ers come back and they win this thing, the headline tomorrow in Minnesota should be "Scared money don't make none," and the 49ers should give a game ball to whoever decided, yeah, we're not going for it on fourth down tonight over on the Minnesota sideline, because
it was a very conservative call that was going to be questioned.
Larry, they scored on 5 straight scoring possessions, and at the end of that, well, the Niners really weren't doing much offensively. It's a 1-possession game. It's a 1-possession game. The Vikings scored on 5 straight possessions, and it was only an 8-point game. I mean, it could have gotten a lot worse, but it could have been, Brock throws a touchdown on the final play of the game. Is everybody talking differently tonight? Yeah. I mean, 1 or 2 plays change everything. The 1 or 2 plays that the Niners needed to make, they didn't, and it even got worse than that. They turned the ball over. Had Christian McCaffrey not fumbled earlier in the game, he wouldn't have been behind the 8 ball the entire game. It was just a bad night.
Listen to this one here. This is Shanahan. I think this is kind of an interesting cut. I hadn't seen it until just now. Watch this. This is Shanahan being asked about the coverage that we debated at the end of the first half. Wilks brought the house, left everybody in a man-to-man coverage down the field. Mooney had the pick and then had it ripped away by Addison. Lost track of the man, and he went down the field and scored a touchdown. Here's Shanahan being asked about it in the presser tonight afterwards.
You were able to sack them, but there were also some assignments too, well, and some blitz calls that backfired. What went on those first half?
I don't think assignment was blown on the touchdown. Called an all-out blitz, and he's got to get rid of it right away, and he threw it up and got a chance for a pick, didn't come through with it, and they got a touchdown. It's a real bad play by us. That stuff we'll discuss throughout this week. Obviously, I did not like it.
There you go.
That's a no. That's a Kyle Shanahan does not approve of that all-out blitz.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I agree with Baller on that one. That is the equivalent of no. I did not agree with it. Would we all agree that Shanahan right there, if he agrees with it, he says so. If he doesn't agree with it, he says that.
I mean, he's like the kind of guy. Which was going through Shanahan's brain there was, I have a chance finally to gain control of this game again. We scored a touchdown at the end of half. We start the second half with the ball. I'm going to do my awesome scripted plays. We're going to go down, punch in another one, and it's going to be 49ers football. But instead, I mean, how many times have we seen Kyle just take a knee and, when maybe they have a chance at putting together a field goal drive at the end of the half, he's content as long as he can have control of this game. That was the big thing. They never had control of the game. And yeah, I don't know what the objective is. Let's say he does pick that. Then what?
It's a weird time to get aggressive in a game where a lack of aggression sort of defined your night. To go balls out blitz in that moment it's a head scratcher. You really is.
No game situation with under 30 seconds to go. All Liz Ward had to do is just bat the ball down. They're going to punt.
They're kneeing the ball down if Ward catches that.
Well, yeah, they're not going to do anything because there's no time. So just knock it down. But it's this, I got to get my picks. It's always, that's where smart players, and I'm not saying he's not a smart player, but the smartest players always know game situation. And Ronnie Lott knocks that ball down. He just doesn't go for the INT because he knocks it down. It's as good as an INT. So you got to know game situation. Players, I think some players, and I'm saying this about Ward, but a lot of players, they love to pad the stats because it gets them the bigger contracts.
We've got some supers here, and we get to these people have been waiting here.
Well, here, Larry, I got to get going. It's been a long day on this end, and you and I got to get up. 8 a.m. tomorrow, 49ers wake up. So before you get into these super chats, let me just plug that, and let me tell you to set your alarm clock, Larry.
I will.
Set your alarm clock this week. Be ready to go, and we'll see everyone at 49ers wake up at 8 a.m. tomorrow, simulcast on our channels. Thank you so much for having me in. There's a lot to talk about. I want to kind of watch this one again, sleep on it. But as bad as it's been the last 2 weeks, the 49ers are tied for the second best record in football. You got 2 6-1s and then a couple 5-2s. They're 5-2. Big game against Cincinnati going into the bye. Huge, huge game coming up. Bengals will have the advantage of a bye. 49ers got a short week to prep. It's going to be very interesting. Think people are panicking at 5-2. Be 5-3 going into the bye week. People are really going to be panicking.
Hey, I'll see you in the morning.
You got it, buddy. Take care. Gentlemen, always good to see all of you. Thanks for having me in here. Take care.
There you go.
Bruce.
Great Damon Bruce. Dazza says Andy Reid can create plays.
Mochi.
Where were the plays for Ray? For Ronnie Bell? CMC was averaging 3 yards. Why not give Mason a shot? Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked that there was hardly any use of Mason or Mitchell in this game. Didn't understand that.
It almost like the Niners just didn't run that many plays offensively. It almost seems like who had? I guess they had 3 guys with 5 catches.
Yeah. Rocky Van Wagner says Niners better get used to every team's best effort. With what happened to BA? What the hell happened to BA in the second half? Moody looked shaky. Brock Purdy was fine except for the first interception. Cone is giddy. We'll see. We'll see about that. We've got this one from Roberto Davis. I've never seen Kyle outcoached so badly. Bosa and Hargrave are getting paid too much for 0 sacks. I don't know if that's on Kyle, to be completely honest. Flav, O'Connell saw we couldn't stop their wide receivers, didn't try to run. Kyle saw they couldn't stop our wide receivers and handed it off to CMC. It drives me nuts.
Into 8-man boxes.
Yeah, it's a lot of running today for the Niners. Saul Goodman says Bosa fleeced this team. Got the bag, and that's what he's saying. He says he took the bag and ran. James Foster says Brock played the same game as Jimmy in the Super Bowl. Brock completed 85% until the fourth. And then in the fourth, he made a couple bad throws, and it burned him. 808 Niner. D is overrated and soft. Brock Purdy looked like Jimmy in the fourth. Wilks' call at the end of the first half was peewee level football. This team ain't making no Super Bowl. Wow, I don't know if I don't feel as confident in speaking definitively about anything at this point. It's October the 23rd, and the trade deadline isn't even come and gone. DeBig 25 says no safety on that touchdown before halftime. Yeah, well, there was a safety. He was in the backfield blitzing. We got this one from Flav. Says Vikings aren't selling anytime soon after tonight. Yeah, that's probably right. We got this from Frank Tom Ocean. What about Jonathan Allen? He seems upset in Washington. Do they need another D tackle? But Jonathan Allen's a beast.
Hey, Jonathan Allen's a beast. I want to jump in. What are you seeing from Hargrave in the run game? I know he made one play. I think he had a tackle for loss. But I mean, looking at PFF's grade,
he's a gap shooter. He shoots gaps.
And his rushing grade, like those two are drastically different. Like they grade him a lot lower in the run game. And I know a couple times tonight, as powerful as we know Hargrave to be and him pushing the pocket, I thought he was kind of getting blown off the ball just a couple times. But what are you seeing throughout this season in Hargrave in the run game? Could he be part of the problem and why this run game went from number 1 in the NFL to somewhere in the middle of the pack?
I think he's definitely a factor. I think it's definitely a factor. I don't think he's deficient against the run, but he's a pass rusher. And when you have pass rushers out there and they get up the field, you know, if they choose the right gap the runner's going through in a run play, they blow it up. But if not, they're not controlling both gaps inside. They're shooting a gap, or at least playing aggressively and getting up the field, trying to play the run on the way to the quarterback. I just think it's a combination of factors. I think the Niners have always leaned on their linebackers, and they've had awesome linebackers, and they lost Aziz, and then they lost Tart, and they lost Ward, and they replaced them with every single guy has been replaced by somebody who's not as good against the run. Then you took away, you added Hargrave, and he's a pass rusher. There's a reason that Philly was okay with letting him walk, and part of it is that he wasn't great against the run. But it was camouflage because he played next to Fletcher Cox, who's dominant against the run.
Imagine if they would have kept Defoe and drafted worse. It'd be in a better situation.
And that is interesting too, as far as what did the Eagles do today? They got Kevin Byard. Now they gave away their leading tackler from last night's game in Edmonds, but they decided that that Byard is a better player than Edmonds. That's the kind of move I think the Niners may want to try as well. It's like, if maybe you could get Aziz and by trading D Winters and a pick. Maybe you could get Sean Murphy Bunting by trading, Darrell Luter and a pick. Maybe you could get Arden Key by trading Robert Beal and a pick. You're just trying to some of these teams are going to want either a high pick or they want a player and a mid-round pick. The Niners have some depth. They just have some young guys that aren't ready to play that I'd be willing to move. I mean, I think Darrell Luter is going to be a good player, but I'd move him to the Bears for Jalen Johnson. If I could move Darrell Luter in a pick and get Jalen Johnson, you get more, performance certainty, let's just say. James Foster says, how about getting Jair Brown on the field? Yeah, I mean, he's strong against the run. He never plays. He's a special teamer strictly. Carson Taylor says, why not trade for Cordero Patterson? I don't know that he's the kind of weapon they need, but he's versatile.
That's that one gets me a lot. He was looking pretty dumpy out there. I'll say that. He was looking kind of thick, but he still is an effective player. You can kind of see
he's a runner and a receiver. I kind of agree with Danny though that
seems like a Shanahan
they're going to add
guy.
a weapon. They need a dynamic player. They need somebody who's a dynamic mover. I like Judy. I like Rondale.
How about DJ Moore? Somebody in the chat earlier said DJ Moore.
DJ Moore would be nice. I definitely would like somebody who
somebody
could
like
run.
that.
Somebody who could run. Flav says this team is probably a missed field goal and CMC fumble away from being 7-0. They play clean, are healthy, they win. They just need to clean it up to get the W's.
That was the reason that was such a huge fumble is, like Rice mentioned earlier, the Niners never had control of the game. If they go up 7-0, all of a sudden, they're not playing from behind.
It's the butterfly effect. I mean, there's a trickle-down effect after that fumble.
My only question is Warner, he said it in the press conference about he wants to be able to win these grimy games. He knows they can win 30-10. He wants to be able to win all these different ways. That would be my one concern is this team, they have a way they want to play where they possess the ball and the defense isn't out there as much. So they're super spry and they're, ready to, get a bunch of sacks and put pressure on the opposing quarterback. Is this a team that is going to be able to overcome these kind of deficits? It worries me a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to have to check out. I got an early morning, got to get to on the road early. So thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it. And, I'm doing some baseball a little bit right now, some playoff stuff. Rangers going to the World Series. Love it. Check me out, NorCal Sports Network, if you want to. I do some Niner stuff too, obviously, but I'm here every 49er postgame as Larry has me, which I appreciate. And we'll see you guys.
Are you on tomorrow night after Diamondbacks Phillies Game 7?
Probably will. Yeah, probably will come on.
We are going to be on tomorrow night after Warriors Suns Game 1 of the opening season, and you guys are all invited on that front. So I'll send you an invite. But everybody, if you haven't already joined, NorCal Sports Network is Danny's channel. West Coast Bias over here is Rye's channel, and Bay Area Baller 18 is Baller's channel. And all three of these guys produce some phenomenal content. Give each one of them a like and a follow, and help them build their channels. They put out a lot of great content. Danny does a lot of baseball. Baller does really a bunch of Niners and Warriors. And Rye, West Coast Bias, is there a genre that you favor over anything else?
He hates the East Coast.
I hate the East Coast. No, it's been mostly we're just honestly. I might have to start doing some Niner stuff. I thought this season was going to be so boring that I thought, you know what? I'm just going to get a buddy on and we're just going to like basically talk gambling and we're going to just go over every game on Sunday and then every game, previewing on Thursday. But definitely basketball, like Warriors, once that gets started, we're going to do big over-under podcasts tomorrow. 25 away from being monetized.
Nice,
so if you could,
nice.
Even if you don't watch.
West Coast Bias on YouTube for Rye. NorCal Sports Network for Danny, and Bay Area Baller 18. Let me just read these last three here. We've got Matthew Rowley. This is crazy. The only difference on defense is Wilks. It's that simple. And like under him, we've focused on the defensive backs and fallen to 25th in the run and middle of the road with sacks. That's his perspective, and I can understand that. RG Teamer says you think the bad turf made him play timid. No, I don't. Avila family throws in $4.99 to just say, hey, we're here. And thank you very much to them and to everybody.
Hey, I will say this real quick. We're not just a baseball channel. We do cover the Niners and we do the Warriors. I've got some special guests coming up with Warriors season as well. That'll be fun. We'll be doing some basketball. We'll have some basketball coaches, some college coaches on, and I got some connections, obviously, with my brother. So, maybe we'll even get some NBA scouts that he knows come on as well. So,
Ooh,
yeah.
Look at that little tease.
Yeah.
Jenny showed a little leg.
I also forgot I'm doing a fantasy football show with Dan on Wednesdays, which you can only imagine.
It's called Trade That. Danny, have a good night.
All right, thanks, guys. Hey, we'll see you next.
There you go. Oh, he got caught off mid-sentence. Rye, you got a final thought before we head to the door here?
Nah, not really. I mean, it just I don't think of Purdy any differently. Unlike Damon, I have some question marks about Wilks, and I don't know. I just hope that they play better versus everything will be back to okay if they can beat the Bengals and the defense looks good and Purdy has a clean sheet going into the bye. So that's just what I'm hoping for.
Well, what I want to know is I'm a huge fan of West Coast Bias. I'm subscribed. I want to know, what does it take to get a follow back from Ryan Smith?
Oh,
because that would completely just make my day, make my week. I mean, I'm a huge fan. I get to talk to him on Sundays, and I'm like, man, the day Ryan Smith follows me back, well, no.
I got you.
Look at that. No, you just had to ask nicely. You just had to ask
Ryan,
nicely.
You just made my day. Love talking ball with you.
Love you. Love you, baller.
Rye, have a great night. Well, and Rye, I don't know if you're around tomorrow night, but Warriors Suns post game, we're gonna chop it up. Red's gonna be in the house. They've already asked if you're gonna be in the house. I said I'll invite him. So if Carl Foster will be here, Red will be here. We'd love to have you if you're around. If you can't make it, I understand, but if you can, I decided this year we're not gonna go every Warrior game. We'll just do a few. But I'll do videos after every Warrior game, and then I'll just do live streams after, just a few games. But it's opening night, so I figured, what the hell?
CP3 revenge game, of course I'm going to be there.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you tomorrow night, bro.
All right,
there
later.
You go. The great Ryan Smith. Baller, you got in here late. Let me just throw this last super here. James Monk said, Niners will get hot again, but Purdy's fourth quarter will happen again when it matters. Aeneas Williams retired the last great Niners Super Bowl quarterback. And that was when he beat Lawrence Phillips and sacked Steve Young. So he's basically saying that Purdy is not great. So everybody knows I'm a Purdy fan, and I didn't think Purdy played great in the fourth quarter, but I did think he played great in the first three quarters. And to me, this one's not on Brock per se. I know it's easy to point to Brock because he had 2 picks at the very end, and he didn't contribute. It wasn't like, I'm absolving him of blame. He threw 2 picks and he's got to own it. But to me, I'll just say it one more time. What bothers me the most is, the Wilks call at the end of the first half, criminally bad call. Risk reward made no sense. that's like the low-hanging fruit that I think is just easy to criticize. Then I will go to the 49er run defense is lacking. And I don't know if it's Hargrave, the lack of Aziz, the lack of Jimmy Ward, the lack of Tart, the injuries to Greenlaw and Warner, and they're not 100%. But the 49er run D is not good enough. That's one. And I would say other than that, I just don't really think that you can call yourself a serious Super Bowl contender if your third best corner is Isaiah Oliver and your fourth best corner is who? I mean, who's their fourth best corner? Ambry
Thomas.
And I just think that they made a mistake when they cut Deshaun Jameson. It's not like they cut Rod Woodson in his prime. Don't get me wrong. But they made a mistake there. And I think they badly need more help up front. I really think if you said to me, what do they need? They want to win the Super Bowl this year. What do the Niners need? They need Azeez Al-Shaair, Sean Murphy-Bunting, and Arden Key minimum. I would take Sean Murphy-Bunting, Azeez Al-Shaair, and I'd rather have Montez Sweat. But I think they need 3 players. I think they need 3 more players, 1 player on all 3 levels of their defense. One more rusher, 1 more athlete in that second level, 1 more reliable shutdown kind of a corner. It doesn't have to be Surtain. Doesn't have to be the best corner in the market. It doesn't have to be Brian Burns. But if you said to me, if John Lynch came to me and said, I need to win the Super Bowl this year, who do I need? Montez Sweat, Azeez Al-Shaair, Sean Murphy-Bunting, or Jalen Johnson. That's what I think they need. And I hope they can get a couple of those guys before the deadline. And I think they probably can. I think they probably can add to this mix. I'm willing to trade draft choices. I'm willing to take on contracts. I'm flexible. I'm even willing to part with some younger players that I think have upside to make the deal happen. But they're in their window and they need help. I will say this on a positive note, if we want to finish on a positive note, Jalen Moore played okay. Jalen Moore, all these people, they need offensive line help. Well, they're not creating a lot of holes in the run game, and that's bothersome. But they didn't lose this game because of Jalen Moore. They didn't lose this game because Danielle Hunter ate Jalen Moore's lunch. And they didn't lose this game because of Colton McKivitz. That's not why they lost this game. So I just think that people should remember that, because there were going to be an awful lot of people who were going to be, if Jalen Moore stunk. See, Trent Williams. They had no Trent Williams. We just did almost a 2.5 hour, a little bit over 2.5 hour post game. There's not a lot of people in the chat saying, what the hell, Jalen Moore. There isn't. People are pretty satisfied with the performance he showed tonight. So, Baller, I'll give you the final word. I appreciate you jumping in. And once again, Bay Area Baller 18 is Baller's YouTube channel. I would love it if the 1,000 people that are here in the chat would run over to Bay Area Baller.
1,000.
Yeah,
come
seriously.
on over, because I just eclipsed 1,500 subs. I'm on the road to 2K. So yeah, come on over, subscribe to Bay Area Baller. I'm going live every week talking ball. But Larry, I'm putting this loss on the defense. The pass rush, it was non-existent. The zone coverage, it was Swiss cheese. And one thing I'm noticing, Larry, and I want to pick your brain on this, the way that the Browns and the Vikings took advantage of our pass rush and how aggressive that our front four is the screen game. Back-to-back weeks, they've given up multiple huge chunk plays in the screen game, right? The ball snapped. Our 4 guys, including Bosa, are gravitating towards the quarterback, and they'll just toss one over. Alexander Madison ran for 30 yards after the catch. TJ Hawkinson. It's not only the running back screens, it's the tight end screens. Njoku broke like a 40-yarder last week. Luckily, it got called back, but the screen game has been giving us problems. I know the offense, they had their miscues, a couple picks. I thought Purdy on his sack, he spun left. He should have stepped up. He had Kittle open on the post route. So the offense wasn't flawless, but the defense giving up, so many yards, so many completions to Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson. This loss is on the defense and the lack of pass rush, the holes. And then Steve Wilks, you call it a low-hanging fruit. I call it just an obvious, blatant error that cannot happen. It was atrocious, rushing 7 in that situation. So that's what I would put it on. But Krug, I appreciate you bringing me on here. Love talking ball after these games. And hey, I'll be back tomorrow talking a little Dubs. Looking forward to it.
Dude, I love having you on the Dubs post game, and we got a lot of Dubs to get into. Trace Jackson Davis looks great. Kuminga looks great. Pajemski looks great. They get the Suns tomorrow night. KD will be in the house. How will the crowd react to him? Frank Red will be with us. Baller will be in the house. Rye, Carl Foster. I'm really looking forward to a little Tuesday Night Wild post game stream. Sai's going to even be here, probably fighting with somebody. So it's going to be good stuff. Baller, have a great night, man. Once again, Spencer Stewart just said, just sub to Baller. Everybody who's in the chat, if you haven't subbed to Baller, give him a sub,
Let's
man.
Go.
It's free to sub, and then hit that notification bell. And every time he goes live, you'll get a little notification that he's going live, and you don't have to miss any of his stuff. And of course, do that over here as well if you haven't already subbed. We're approaching 27,000, and we appreciate every single one of you guys. And it's been an awesome trip. Baller, we'll see you tomorrow night, brother. Good to see you.
Right on, Larry.
There you go. The Great Bay Area Baller. Baller has got a good channel. He puts out some fantastic stuff. He really does. GSAC says, or Gusak says, thanks, Krug. Yep. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're on tomorrow night. So, hey, I want to thank all of our guys. I want to thank all of you guys. Great response tonight. We had, I think at one point we had like 1,700 people in the room. There are a lot of other choices. And believe me, I understand that as a 49er, content creator, Bay Area sports content creator. I understand that you, the viewer of this stuff, have options. Grant could be going live. Lombardi could be going live. Vish and the coach do a thing. There's Jesse, there's a bunch of different people out there that are all going live after these games all at one time. So the fact that we had 1,600 people in the room really speaks to how much people prioritize the Krug show over some of the other options out there. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. I work hard at it. Kev works hard at it. We try to put out the best content we possibly can. Tomorrow on the channel, we'll be doing recaps of this game. We'll also be looking ahead to opening night Warriors. And tomorrow night, Warriors Suns. And I got a whole nother crew that I bring in for Warriors stuff. I love Frank Red. Him and I have been friends for 20 years. I love Carl Foster. Me and him have been friends for 20 years. Sai, who's, obviously locked on Warriors. Sai and I have been friends for 20 years. And then Danny and Rye hopefully be in the house, and Baller. They're more my newer friends, but Danny and Rye, of course, OGs on the Krug channel, on the Krug show, and doing so much with us over the last couple of years. I'm proud of those guys. They now have their own channels that they're growing up and doing great stuff with. So really, really appreciate them. And then Baller does some great stuff, and we'll chop it up tomorrow night. And it's funny, it's opening night, so hopefully nobody will be yelling at each other, but it happens, man. People have strong opinions when we get into these Warrior conversations, and sometimes guys start going at each other, so I can't promise that there won't be any fighting, but yeah, I love the Warrior talk. I love the Warrior vibe right now. Pajemski looks great. Kuminga looks great. Moody looks great. Trace Jackson Davis. We were on a stream when he got drafted 57th overall. I'll say it right now. That's the greatest 57th pick in NBA draft history. He looks phenomenal. Phenomenal. Jim Everett, the great, says, "Don't block me, Larry. I want to argue with Sai." You know what? I don't really block anybody anymore. I just don't. I just don't. If you say something racist or terrible, I've got to block you, and I will. And I have no qualms about doing it. I just, if you're ripping me, I can just live with it. You know what I mean? If you're ripping, as long as you're civil and you're not just super personal, I don't care what you say. I mean, it's sports. At the end of the day, come on, we all get off out of pocket sometimes and we say things we don't mean. I don't even care if you rip the hell out of me, just as long as you just don't get like, I'm very defensive of Kev. So it's like, don't rip my son. If you rip my son, then we're fighting. But if you rip me, you can say anything you pretty much want, as long as it's not totally crazy personal. But yeah, as long as you don't get into race, religion, politics, those kinds of things. And that's what this channel's for. This channel is supposed to be a diversion from those things. JD's in the house. JD, what's up, brother?
What's going on, Larry?
I was just wrapping up, but what the fuck? Let's go another 2 in the third. Heck, we're only halfway done. JD has joined us. We're going to go for 5 hours. No, but JD, we're not going to go for 5 hours, but good to see you. And we've had shows in the past, basketball streams, where you've jumped in at the end of your night after doing 95.7 The Game stuff, and we have gone for an hour and a half. I don't know about that, but let me hear your reaction to the game tonight. What'd you think?
Yeah, disappointing. I mean, right off the jump, the 49ers get the interception early, Charvarius Ward with the pick, and they're going down looking to punch it in, play from ahead. And I really thought the Christian McCaffrey fumble on that, second possession, but off the turnover, that was the early, I think, tell that it was going to be a tough night for the Niners. So that ball gets popped out. McCaffrey put the blame on himself after the game.
I saw that. He was like really, really hard on himself.
Really hard. And I think, part of it is maybe the fact that it was the second time in 3 games that he's had a fumble. He's just not used to fumbling at all. And I think, part of the reason the 49ers use him as much as they do and are as dependent on him as they are is the fact that he doesn't cough the rock up. So second time in 3 games with a lost fumble. Didn't hurt him against the Cowboys. That game was a blowout. But in this one, I think, he really looked at it at the end of the night as 5-point game. I fumble. We're going in for points. Difference in the game. And it also could have flipped the way the entire game plays out if the Niners were playing from ahead versus playing from behind, which they wound up never having a lead in this game. The Vikings went down 89 yards off of that and took the lead and really, in a lot of ways, never looked back, even though the 49ers had many, 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 many opportunities to still win the game and even an opportunity to steal the game on the final possession. But the defense right now, I think, is just, the overarching thing. We could talk about the 2 picks from Purdy, one of them in desperation. The other one, he just a bad throw to Juwan Jennings on the first one when Jennings looked like maybe he could have cut a little sooner on that ball, but Purdy said no, it's just a bad throw. Jennings was fine on that play, but no, just a lot of missed opportunities. But the defense is what I wanted to come back to. The Vikings ran it on him. Second straight game, first half, just controlled the line of scrimmage, kind of hit the 49ers in the mouth the way the Browns did as that game went on. And the 49ers just couldn't generate any pressure. I mean, Kirk Cousins was just comfortable all night. And, I know Nick Bosa credited Cousins for making some intelligent checks at the line, seeing where, what the 49ers were doing and adjusting to some, pass plays when he saw fit, run plays when he saw fit, and kind of kept the Niners off balance. But this was a Cousins, O'Connell, beaten up on Wilks, kind of a game. And Wilks, I think, is going to take the brunt of.
I mean, that second quarter call was just terrible. I mean, you're bringing the house, inside of a minute. I mean,
what it reminded me of?
The risk reward made no sense.
It reminded me of the play when the year the Rams won the Super Bowl and they went to Tampa late, and remember Tampa ran the all-out blitz and Stafford hit, I think it was Cooper Kupp for a huge gain that set him up and put him in field goal range after the Rams had blown a lead. And then, the Rams obviously go on and win the Super Bowl off of that when it looked like maybe they were going to be eliminated. But anyway, back to, that was a big time play, the worst, for the Niners. That I think they felt like they were starting to stabilize the game there, late in the second quarter. And to go, to give up that touchdown and to go in at halftime down by 9, it just really, it really flipped things. Then they wind up down 12.
Yeah.
And it was just an uphill climb all night. I thought when the 49ers were able to get, McCaffrey, when they were able to hold the Vikings to a field goal, and then McCaffrey, takes it in from 35 on the little quick hitter, I thought, all right, there's action right here. But it was just Hawkinson running free and Addison, making big plays. It just, the Vikings seemingly had every answer in the key moments tonight, and the 49ers just couldn't match up. But it starts with the defense tonight for San Francisco. No doubt about it. Can't generate any pressure, hit in the mouth of the line of scrimmage. Vikings were able to run it on them in the first half. It just set a bad tone.
Yeah. I'm going to share the screen here. This is your camera, right? This is your angle. This is what you got.
Yeah.
This is Shanahan. So this is on 95.7 The Game.
Oh, yeah, I
on
was real
Twitter.
disappointed that we couldn't get him off the field. I mean, they had one punt today. We had one punt. They had one turnover. We had 3 turnovers. So I think when both teams only punt once, it looks like it's going to be a shootout. But, we ended up turning over 2 more times than them, and it was a 5-point game. So almost as simple as that.
There was another one here where Shanahan was asked about Wilks.
Yeah, he was not happy. He was not happy. It was about the all-out blitz on the 60-yarder to Addison before halftime.
And I'm going to play this one here. Here we go. Here it is.
Yep.
Make sure. Wait a second. Let me share the screen again. Let me share the screen on this one, because this one, to me, is the one that kind of Shanahan shows how he actually feels here.
It was blown on the touch.
Here we go.
You weren't able to sack them. There were also some assignments involved and some blitz calls that backfired. What went on those first half?
I think assignment was blown on the touchdown. Called an all-out blitz, and he's got to get rid of it right away. And he threw it up and got a chance for a pick, didn't come through with it, and they got a touchdown. Real bad play by us. That's stuff we'll discuss throughout this week. Obviously, I did not like the result.
There you go.
The question was obviously, do you like? Are you cool with calling an all-out blitz in that situation, essentially?
And it's basically Kyle's not going to typically throw his coach on his defensive coordinator under the bus, but that's about as close as it gets right there. I mean, he pretty much said I wasn't okay with that. Without saying it as much, he's like, "Oh, we'll have to discuss it." What was your take? Because you were in the room probably when he said it.
Yeah. No, I was, and I thought he was pissed. I thought he was pissed, and I thought he was, whether he let the moment maybe get the better of him, or he didn't keep his composure. He let, to me, everybody know that he was pissed, and that they were going to have to talk about it, and that there's going to be certain situations, I think, moving forward. It's not like it's some untenable situation or anything like that. I just think there's certain situations where Kyle is going to go to him and say, "Hey, don't do that in that spot. Like, don't do that in a spot where
risk reward. Let's measure risk versus reward there a little bit better."
Yeah, we're going in down. At that point, 3. I think is what it was, right? And then it was 10-7, and so he's thinking, from Kyle Shanahan's perspective, we're going in 10-7.
Which is not a bad spot to be. You're getting the ball to begin the third quarter.
Exactly, especially the way the first half had played out. So to give up the touchdown there and to wind up down, I mean, it was just a backbreaker in the moment. Now, the 49ers did have other chances, of course, but I think it's as simple as Kyle's just going to say, "Hey, we're going to check with each other," or I'm going to get on the headset and say, "Hey, let's make sure we don't do X or Y in a given situation, because I'm the head coach, and I don't want us to put, I don't want to be put in that kind of situation." So I don't think it's something where, it's like his job's on the line or anything like that.
They're going to replace Wilks. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, up until the last 2 weeks, the 49ers defense had been just gangbusters. I mean, everything looked like it was clicking. The one thing I will bring up, though, is, and it does relate to that play, because that play was a blitz, and we all know, Steve Wilks, he's known in the league as a DC who wants to blitz a lot, and the 49ers have not blitzed a lot in the Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans. They've been a four-man rush. Defensive line gets home. Maybe they run a little game here or there, but they would very rarely blitz. And so now you've got a defensive coordinator who likes to blitz, and you've got a 49ers defense that's not used to blitzing. And I think the question now becomes, moving forward, is there a little bit of a disconnect from the standpoint of figuring out how the players that the 49ers have can function at the highest level and pick in the right spots to blitz to where it helps you and it doesn't burn you in the ways that it burned the 49ers tonight.
Yeah. One more here I'm going to play. This is Kyle talking about Purdy.
One missed throw to Juwan was
Let's see
the one tough play that he.
Let's go back to the front here. Here we go.
No, that's what I was just saying. He just missed the one to Juwan, a little over the middle. Had to have it a little more inside the numbers. And the second one was just trying to lob it over someone in desperation.
How do you think he played?
I thought he played really well. As the one missed throw to Juwan was the one tough play that he didn't make.
What do you think there? I mean, he was talking about Purdy. The quarterback is such the focal point of everything that. Oh wait, let me just stop that real quick. But yeah, I mean, obviously Purdy is going to be. The quarterback gets more credit when they win. They get more blame when they lose. It's kind of the nature of the business. I'm sure there'll be lots of people. There were lots of people in here saying Purdy's not the guy, so on and so forth. It's funny. I feel like I jinxed him somehow because I tweeted out at the end of the third quarter. I'm like, Purdy is 16 of 19 for 214 yards and a touchdown. He's completed 84% of his passes. He's played really well. And then, of course, in the fourth quarter, he throws the interception by Cam Bynum on the ball to Jennings. Kyle seemed to think that was his biggest mistake. And then on the last play, from what I could tell on the last play, it seemed like, and Purdy referenced it, that he had a big avenue to his right to run for maybe 20, 30 yards. Now, you were there, and you're in the box, and you're in the booth, and you're seeing down on the field. So it's like you're essentially watching the all-22. What did you see, JD, as far as what was Purdy looking at as far as if he had escaped, how much time was on the clock, and how much of a running lane did he have there?
I didn't think he had it. Had the lane. He did. He thought he had it for sure. And he addressed it in the post game and yeah.
Why? Because you saw another defender over there?
Yeah, the angle, it didn't add up to me. I mean, I think he could have picked up some yards, but it wouldn't have been a massive gain. He seemed to think he had the ability to run and pick up a pretty significant gain when he addressed it in the post game session. So yeah, that's one that I think he wished he had back for that reason, because I think he believed that they, obviously could have got, close enough to be able to take a real good shot there.
Teasy says Purdy's made of the right stuff. He'll be fine. His fearlessness will get us in trouble in obvious passing situations, but it's what makes him great as well. I kind of agree with Teasy there. JD, final thought on this one. This is not just another game. The Niners have a quick turnaround, and now they get a Bengal team coming off the bye, and the Niners will be on a short week coming back to San Francisco. They're probably in the air right now, flying back. What do you think John Lynch's reaction is going to be? Today's the 23rd. A week from tomorrow is the trade deadline. Do you think, if John Lynch ran into you in the corridor and he said, JD, you're a keen observer of all that is 49er football, what is your opinion on what I need to do to, by the way, do you need to jet? Are you getting pressure to jet out of there right now?
No, I've got a few minutes. Yeah,
okay. You're looking off to the side. I wasn't sure if you're
it is
motioned like, hey, wrap it.
No.
What should Lynch do? I mean, there's a lot of talk that he was going to be super aggressive. Him and Howie Roseman are obviously in this, Niners Eagles battle for the NFC. The Eagles, as you well know, traded a 5th and a 6th round pick and Terrell Edmonds for Kevin Byard today, and picked up a real good safety, a Pro Bowl, all-pro type. What do you think? What should the Niners do? What will Lynch do? How big of a move do you think he's planning on making? I do think he'll do something. What do you think he does?
I do think they're going to do something, Larry. I think, to me, whether it's a pass rusher, I still think they need another pass rusher. I mean, they're not getting home. The defensive line dominance has not been as consistent as the 49ers are used to having it be. And I read a note, and you may have seen this. Forgive me, I can't recall who it was, but it was, Nick Bosa, I think in his last 12 games has 3.5 sacks, if you include the games this season plus the playoff games, and you go back toward the end of the regular season. And so, Bosa made a comment post-game as well about how he's got some opportunities that he's missing. And the way he said it, and I'm paraphrasing, is, hey, if I want to be, the player that I'm expected to be, I need to start getting home on some of these. And so I think he's feeling it a little bit, that the production hasn't quite been there as far as the numbers as to where he wants it to be. So I just think they've got to fix the defense right now in terms of how they want to go about playing, get everybody on the same page as far as the blitzing versus, rushing for. But I think part of it is they're not getting pressure bringing for. So Wilks, one of his strong suits as a defensive coordinator in his career is bringing heat. And so I think that's making the 49ers more vulnerable in other areas. But if I had to say one thing, to me, it would be pass rusher above, offensive line. Trent Williams is going to be back at some point. I think, Debo obviously is going to be back at some point. McCaffrey's got to play through this oblique and rib thing to, next week, and then get the bye. And then I think the hope is that, that thing, I don't know how it'll heal as the season goes on when you keep getting hit, but McCaffrey's tough as nails. And, we saw it tonight. I mean, he was just accepting the punishment. There were a few times early in the game where you could really tell he was wincing on contact. I thought he got thrown to the ground early on before the fumble on that second series, and the TV cameras really caught him kind of giving like as he got dropped on a tackle. So he's tough, but he's clearly playing through it. I think as the offense gets healthy, everything gets back on schedule and Purdy looks a little more comfortable, and Shanahan's able to get back in his bag with the play calling, and everything will kind of fall in line on that front. I think defensively is where the 49ers need to look to add. I mean, I think they're good at linebacker. Secondary would be the only thing. Like, do they need they need a corner? Do they need safety help? Do they need maybe a jack of all trades guy that can maybe play? And look, these guys, you can't just find them anywhere, but they need somebody that maybe can play a little safety, but a little nickel, but also, it sounds like Ward. It sounds like I'm talking about Jimmy Ward. Yeah, exactly. But he was just so valuable because they could just kind of move him around where they needed him. And so I would say secondary, but I'm not sure. Is it a lockdown corner? I mean, they're not totally getting burned there. I think at times the safeties, are they supposed to be coming up on some of these blitzes? Are the blitzes supposed to get home so the quarterback is getting rid of the ball? It seemed like too many times tonight the Vikings were throwing it right where the 49ers were coming from. I mean, they had it dialed. Like they were throwing it right to the open area, vacated quick enough where the blitz couldn't get home, and there were big plays. And so is some of that assignments in the secondary that aren't being met, and maybe there needs to be an adjustment made there? I'm not sure, but I come down to defensive line. I think above that's the one thing that fits with the identity of the 49ers and what they're not doing right now, and the quickest way to sort of get the defense back on schedule and on brand.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk to the 49ers that John Lynch is calling around the league and canvassing the league and gauging who's available before the trade deadline, which comes up on October 31st. And one of the sources was quoted as saying he and Adam Peters are working the phones. They are all in on this year, which is very interesting to hear. Matt Miller, who works for ESPN and is a Niner fan, he says, I'd really like to see the 49ers add a cornerback at the trade deadline. Jalen Johnson would be ideal if the Bears will part with him. He had a pick 6 this weekend, so that his price tag just went up for sure. But I think they could use really 3 things. I think they could, I think they lean on Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner so much to stop the run, and those guys are getting nicked up. I think they could use another linebacker. I think they could use a defensive end of note. I think they could use another corner. It would definitely be on the defensive side of the ball. I was encouraged tonight, JD, by the play of Jalen Moore and the Niner offensive line.
Yeah.
I thought there was a chance that
He
Jalen
held
Moore
up.
would get lit up. Yeah, he held up. He absolutely held up. Some people have suggested Jerry Jeudy and the need for a more dynamic offensive player. What do you think? I mean, so many of their weapons, JD, run through you instead of around you or by you. What do you think of a Jeudy type, or what do you think of a speedster? I know they have Danny Gray, but it's like this perennial waiting on Danny Gray. I wonder if he can handle the physicality of the NFL at this point. Do you think their needs are all on D, or do you think there's an offensive need that they could fill?
I really think at this point they're all on defense. I think we've seen how good this offense and great this offense can be when they're whole. Now, do you need to add somebody because you have to anticipate the fact that you're not going to be whole, right? Like that to me is always the game at the trade deadline, is you look at your team and you look at what you have when you have everybody. And we've talked about this in prior weeks, the fact that you start taking players away for the 49ers, and it's going to look a little different offensively. And it has looked different. McCaffrey's banged up, Debo's out, and all of a sudden Purdy doesn't look quite the same as he did before. So do you need to add one guy that brings a different element? Basically, in case you lose somebody else, do you just have a different way you can go about attacking things if you're the 49ers offensively? So that's an interesting point of view. I wanted to just hit on Greenlaw. He's clearly not 100%. That's a good point you brought up about Greenlaw. Like, he really grinded it out tonight, but he was hobbled and, even before the plays that everybody saw where he was down there for a second and kind of, was limping around, and then he's staying in the game. Warner looked like he took a little bit of a hit at one point, and he came right back in the game. And I guess they said it was a Charlie horse maybe on the broadcast, but yeah, the attrition of the long season and a couple of real physical games. And now you got the short week off of 2 losses against a rested Bengals team that's playing better. The Bengals beat Seattle and beat Arizona their last 2 games, and they're coming to Levi's. And there was a tone from Kyle Shanahan, I thought, in the postgame press conference of, let's just get through this week. Let's just get through this week. Like, and get to 6-2 at the bye, basically halfway through the season now with 17 games, a little under halfway, and reset. But the message is you want to be able to reset at 6-2 and not 5-3, because if you're 5-3, all of a sudden you're in a battle for the division at that point, and you're not a lock to get a bye, and you're behind Philadelphia maybe by 2 games, and then so next week, even as an AFC game, I think is a huge swing game for the 49ers, because it's not going to get easier really after. I mean, they go play Jacksonville after the bye. Jacksonville's playing good football. You still got Seattle in November, and then you go to Philly. So to me, having that little bit of cushion, 6-2 versus 5-3 is huge. But you could tell Kyle Shanahan really is drawing on trying to get the message across. All right, guys, short week, get home tonight,
dig deep,
pull it together, dig deep, and then we'll get a breather after that and come back.
JD, great stuff. Thanks for checking in. When are we going to hear you next on 95.7 The Game?
Yeah, I'm going to be flying back from Minneapolis tomorrow morning. So we're going to try and sneak one in at the back end of the Steiny and Guru show. But due to the flight timing and everything, it might not be able to be done. I'm on a flight that's supposed to land right in that 1 o'clock hour there. But the Warriors start tomorrow.
So you're going to be out there tomorrow night?
And yeah, I will be at the team shop. I think Willard and Dibbs are going to be out at the team shop for their show. And then I'm going to be doing the pregame show from the Warriors shop in Thrive City outside Chase Center. And then I'll have the post game as well after the ball game, the Warriors and the Suns. This is a hell of a back-to-back for your guy, man.
Back-to-back
2 time zones. Let's go. This is what I
Hey,
live
we're
for.
on tomorrow night after Warriors Suns, so I'll send you an invite. But I if you can only
If
jump
the
in at the
voice
last
holds
second.
up, I'm there. If the voice
All right.
holds up, I'm there. I'm battling a little bit of the voice tonight.
Yeah, no
but-
problem. You
but
sound
we're-
great. Hey, we'll let you go. Safe travels back to the Bay, and thanks for jumping in, JD. You're the best, man.
You got it, Larry. Have a good one.
You could, there you go, JD. John Dickinson, great job. JD's fantastic. He's a hustler, and as you can tell, he's a little banged up. But you know what? We're all playing a little banged up. It's just once you get to this point in the year and the cold season comes on, whether it's me with my stuffed up nose or JD with his throat, it's like it's like one of those things. You just do the best you can and get through it. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors, Marin Auto Glass, marinautoglass.com. If you ever are driving down the street and you're in the Bay Area and you crack a windshield, or heck, somebody pulls out something and bashes in your windshield and you need a brand new windshield, marinautoglass.com is the best company. They service the entire Bay Area. 415-883-3030. They'll come out, they'll pop out the old glass, they'll glaze in a new one, they'll sweep away the old glass. And it's all very, very convenient. They can usually do it wherever you're at. So marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030. New York style Italian sausage, the best Italian sausage in the Bay. Love New York style Italian sausage. They've been with me since the beginning. Thanks to Laura and Mike and all the good people, Pasquale and all the good people at New York style Italian sausage. The only kind of Italian sausage that I will eat is New York style sausage company sausage. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Damon and Mary is the owners of Pig and a Pickle. They have the best restaurant going, and it's phenomenal. They're in Corte Madera and Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week in both spots. Awesome barbecue. Get the brisket chili. Say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krueg sent you. Here's what their location in Marin County looks like.
So New York style sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never going to deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
Hey, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
All right, we're coming down the home stretch on the Krueg Show, and thanks to everybody. Thanks to Danny and Rye and Baller and JD and Damon and Kev and all the people that were with us. All the thanks to everybody who threw in their super chats. Thanks to everybody else who threw in their normal chats. We are sitting at 26,507 total subscribers. The channel has had 1.6 million views in the last 4 weeks alone, and over 210,000 watch time hours. We've added close to 3,000 subs in the last 4 weeks alone. So the channel is blowing up. I can't thank you all enough. I'm enjoying myself immensely. Hopefully you can see that with our streams and our videos. Go to our channel, The Krueg Show on YouTube, and look for all the different videos that we do. Kev puts up a bunch of them every day, 4 or 5 every day, usually. Tomorrow night after Warriors Suns, we'll have a live stream, our first Warrior live stream of the season. And that's going to do it for us. Thanks to everybody. By the way, for those of you if you're one of the 600, 700 people still hanging out after this 3-hour and 14-minute extravaganza, you get to view for the very first time Kev's brand new outro. Our close used to be this.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you won't get exactly what you asked for.
Okay, so that used to be the close, but Kev made a brand new close, and here it is. And hope everybody has a great night. Check us out tomorrow night after the Warriors and the Suns. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you won't get exactly what you asked for. Careful, whatever you bring me getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to